Hotep, Hotep, peace, 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 peace. All right, this is your brother Wujau, Medew, Maat, and welcome to the Seshew's channel. And it is late, and now it is actually technically Saturday. But, as we say, this is late Friday night. So this is a late hangout with the Seshew. So I appreciate anybody who's tuned in. Yeah, like I always say, make sure that if you're not subscribed, subscribe, and make sure you not only subscribe but make sure you hit the bell and click all notifications. All right, because like you see right here, right now, we will pop up anytime, any day, out the clear blue sky, out from the clear biggest ocean of oceans. All right, we just drop and go live. All right, so appreciate anybody tuned in because we definitely do some on the spot ad hoc live streams. So I really appreciate. I see some of the same usual folks that would hang out, and we try to have a good time and learn something and share, and all of the above. So I want to give a shout out to Vyasa Hotep. As a matter of fact, let me put this chat over here. There you go. Shout out to Vyasa. Boom. I think Boom. I think you had another name. I don't remember it just being Boom, but Boom. Everything is everything. Mr. Spider himself. And who else do we have? We got a Russian bot. Somebody needs to tell me where are all these where are these bots? I'm saying Russian bot because it looks like the names look Russian. I'm sure I see it on people's channels everywhere. So Google needs to get on the ball. Google and YouTube and all the subsidiary companies, whatever, they need to come together and get on the ball because that's everywhere now. Seeing on everybody's channel, these spam or these spam bots will just type letters, period, in a letter. And my guess, if I had to guess what that is that it's some kind of analytics that if they type that stuff in, it's reading analytics. And it's probably what they say is piggybacking off your viewership and hours of viewing to give to others to, because on YouTube, you have to have a certain amount of subscribers and viewing hours and all this and that. And my guess is that it has something to do with that, to kind of share other people's streams and get that going. I don't know for a fact, but anyway. So, peace to Chavis. What's going on, Chavis? Again, good. Nice to meet the brother. Met him last week, almost a week ago today. Had a good chance to meet him. And I guess that's it. I'll see on the chat right there. All right, so let's get in. Oh, well, actually, let me let's see. I haven't missed anybody in the chat. But let me close my mouth so that we can have introductions around here.
Hotep, who about Emike. And I know we are coming in late today, midnight, so we are going to go hard a bit. So I guess you could call us the Midnight Marauders. So that will be our official name for this late night shows. But yeah, just happy to see everybody on the chat today, and actually also Sanet Lisa, Hotep Sanet E, Neferet. It's good to see you here. It's been a while though, but it's great to see you. So hopefully, everybody enjoys the show. I'm actually looking forward to it as well. And hopefully everybody joins the panel today as well, because I seem to be the only one on the panel most of the time. So it would be good to have some other people on the channel.
Yeah, I kind of gave up on the panel link. Every show in the past, like I pass, umpteen number of shows, I give the panel link. You know, I put it in the chat, I pin it up in the chat, and I ask people, to come on the panel if you want to share your thoughts, ask questions, or, you know, correct anything, all of that good stuff. And every time I do it, it's like crickets. Nobody comes on the panel. I'm not going to say nobody, absolutely nobody, but I mean, relatively, no one comes on the panel. So, I'm going to put the panel link in the chat in hopes that somebody, anybody, everybody scream. No, hopefully somebody will come on the panel and kick it with us. This is a safe space. All right. So anyway, let's get into what we want to get into. So the title of this show is obviously you are spending your late night with the Seshew, and the title is Are the Nubians Egyptians? Okay. And I also included Chief X's name in the title because Chief X recently did a video in response to Asar Imhotep's recent video, not addressing that question specifically, but he's addressing the Nubians. And if you've been following the conversation that Chief X has been having about the Egyptians not being black and all of that on Facebook and YouTube, then you'll this will make sense in terms of why I titled this are the Egyptians are the Nubians Egyptians. If you haven't, it's not hard. You'll catch up from context. All right. So tonight, what I plan to do is just address one point that Chief X made, and I'm using his commentary on this one point as a teaching moment to further elaborate on what I've been saying for years. All right, this is nothing new. Nothing that I'm saying tonight is going to be new. I'm only putting it in. I'm only structuring it to address what Chief X claimed. All right. So this is something I've been advocating, something I've been saying for years. So if you all have been hanging out with us, with me for any amount of time, this is not going to be something new, but it's still interesting, and so I'm just going to kind of elaborate a little bit or explain it a little bit different. And then maybe people who may have been confused before, you will not be. All right. So there you go. But anyway, Kat, before we jump in, do you have anything to say?
Well, not really. No, I don't have actually anything to say right now. But what I could say is that definitely check out Seba University. This Seba University sponsors this discussion, so I'll put the link on the chat. And we do actually have some free courses in there. We have how to look up words in dictionaries, which are very helpful. We have the newest course that we have is for the has the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered. So it's a free course. You actually just need to buy the book, and when you buy the book, then you get the free course, and it's also going to be updated. We also have some other courses that are not really the courses that are not really related to language. Like we have evolution. That's a good one. And we have logical reasoning, which is also a good course that is in there. And then we have different courses. So just check out sebeluniversity.com and you see that. So we are trying to make sure that everybody's set. And the other thing that I could say is that little update, thanks to Sen Jehudi suggestion, we changed the name because people always kind of have a hard time saying the full name of the Seshew Mani Netcher. So you can always find us on YouTube by just searching under the Seshew or the scribes. So that's that too. And when you go to this particular YouTube channel that you're watching right now, we have actually archived our the videos that we do. They're actually archived under different subjects or topics. So you can have things like like quick lessons, where you have like quick lessons like if you want to know how to translate how language works, you can find quick playlists on Simplified, Sesh, Medew, Netcher, or Hieroglyphic, or anything like that. So you can so we made it easier for anybody that wants to go through our archives to find videos related to topics. So that's the other update, and I don't think I have anything else to say.
Okay, all right. So yes, shout out to Jehudi Ma'at. Yeah, he forced us to change the name of the channel to the Seshew because he heard so many people mispronounce it and everything like that. So he was like, man, I'm tired of this. We gotta change the name. Change the name to the channel. You should just change it to the Seshew. And he didn't get any pushback from me. So name is changed. All right. Shout out to Zane. Just want to make sure I'm and Sundiata, Hotep, peace. All right, so let's jump in. So again, you're spending a late night with the Seshew. Really appreciate it. We come at you, out the blue, ad hoc, out the clear blue sky, out the deepest oceans. We'll just come at you. So make sure you subscribe. And if you already subscribed, really appreciate that. But just check your notification bell. Even though you're subscribed, make sure you click that bell to get notified for all notifications. All right. Because when we go live, you'll get notified and we come out the clear blue at any time, any day, like right now. All right. So the title of this stream is Are the Nubians Egyptians?
Please put the panel link over there, because maybe some people today are feeling a little bit not fearful to come through. So we need the panel link on the chat.
All righty. Will do. So let me get that going. So, all right. So the title of the show is Are the Nubians Egyptians? Okay. So again, let me stay again. I want to make this very crystal clear. I've been advocating a stance for years now on Facebook, on YouTube. We have videos on our channel right here in the archive. You can look it up. Kush and Nubia is several titles with the word Nubia and Nubian in it. Just search our channel for the words Nubia and Nubian. Same thing with Facebook. All right. So I'm not really saying anything new tonight, but I want to address something that Chief X said. So the reason why Chief X's name is mentioned in the title is because I'm going to address something that he said, but I'm using it as a teaching moment, as sharing something that we all can benefit from. But long story short, Asar Motep did a video, I think 2 days ago, and in this video, Asar is addressing various different topics and maybe claims that other people have made. But Chief X did a video, I believe today, addressing Asar Himotep's video. And Chief X's video is 2 hours and 2.5 hours long. Asar's video is 1 hour and 50 minutes. And so tonight, I'm just going to address one thing that Chief X said that stood out towards the beginning of his video. And again, so this is how we got here, to be able to take that and use it as a teaching moment. Shout out to Christopher Withers. And we are going to get it in. All right. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to play the portion of Chief X video that I want to discuss. All right. So I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to play it. And then after I play it, then we'll discuss it. All right. So let me see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull it up and play it. All right. So give me a second. Let me get it up. Okay. So this is Chief X channel. And shout out to Chief X. And I see we got the brother Jehudi Ma'at coming on board the panel. So Jehudi, you have any words before we dig in?
What's up? Y'all hear me?
Hotep. Yep, hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Hotep, just peeping the show.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, we about to dig in. All right. So all right, so is this big enough to see it? All right, so now Chief X didn't in this section. He didn't really show anything. So whether his screen is bigger or not really doesn't matter. But I'm just gonna play it so we can hear the claim that we're gonna discuss. All right, so let me get on over to it.
So since his discussion was an hour and 52 minutes, I'm going to skip around to just the main points that he was trying to make. The main points he was trying to make is he spoke on hair a lot and the color of the Egyptians, the color of the Nubians. He made claims that these are afros and this is that. He made claims of Egyptians coming from the south, trying to allude to the fact they were coming from Sudan or Ethiopia, which is a bunch of bullshit. I thought I shut that down already. I'm wondering what the fuck people in the chat doing, sitting there and agreeing with them. You must have not seen my video. We clarified this coming from the South BS that these Negroes been yapping about for fucking decades. But we're gonna get into that. So that's what we're gonna do, and I got timestamps. So just so to cut time, let's just go ahead and skip around to the bullshit he was talking about and what I'm talking about.
Peace and blessings to DJ Rock, Baltimore's best. Peace and blessings to you. What's happening? And to Sylvia Stewart, always nice to have you in the building. Thank each and every one. Is really just a citizen of.
Now listen. So people think every country operates like America operates as far as citizenship and who is an Egyptian and who's not an Egyptian. Okay? So let's just listen to the claim.
Of stylistic, Eurasians, very, very late period. The Egyptians. Is really just a citizen of ancient Egypt.
Hold on, let me rewind it. I missed that part.
Of stylistic, Eurasians with African hairstyles because of the style of the artwork itself, and they're really walking around as if these folks are the Egyptians, and in many ways they are. So when you say Egyptian is really just a citizen of ancient Egypt. And so anybody who is settled and had children and had raised, in the territory of what we call Egypt today is an Egyptian. And so they're not wrong. But what they'll do is...
Okay, pause. So what he's alluding to is that if you're in the country Egypt and born in Egypt, you're a citizen and you're Egyptian. Okay? That is not true today. It wasn't true then. Okay? Egyptians were strict about who they claimed to be Egyptians and how they buried their own people, the Egyptians. To be a Egyptian, you have to have a mother and a father who was Egyptian. You can't just be born in Egypt. Now, modern times and ancient times, the rules and laws were different. So let me just speak about modern times. Because people are making these claims around Aswan that they're these Nubians and they're Egyptians because they're in the country of Egypt. First of all, in Aswan, anyone kinky haired or black, those are the Nubians in Aswan, which is actually Egypt. But those are Nubians. They're not Egyptians. To be an Egyptian, you have to have a mother and a father who is Egyptian. By blood. Not by blood. This is why they have, and I've went over this and I've lectured about this. I have done a presentation about it. I don't want to go there just to save time. But even in Egypt, they have what they call the Nubian village.
All right. So for y'all can hear me? Okay, sorry about that. So, all right, now I played that in full. I stopped it there. All right, I stopped it there because that's what I want to discuss. So let's review what he said. Now, everyone heard what Chief X said. Okay, so let's just review what he said. So he stopped Asar's video when Asar was talking about Egyptian citizenship. And Asar's point was that to be an Egyptian, and if he'd have played the whole section where Asar was saying it, that an Egyptian is basically an Egyptian citizen. And so Chief X is saying that Asar is wrong, and that's not true. Chief X said that being born in Egypt does not mean that you're an Egyptian. Chief X said that in order to be an Egyptian, you have to have two parents that are Egyptian, and he emphasized by blood and the whole nine. All right. Then he went on to bring up Nubians that are in Egypt, Aswan, because Chief X said Aswan is in Egypt, but he said but the Nubians are Nubians, even though they're in the Aswan area and live in Egypt. They're not Egyptians. So Chief X is saying they're not Egyptians. They're Nubians. All right, so that's just a quick recap on what Chief X said. Now, this is what I want to elaborate and why I'm using this as a teaching moment. Now, I'm an advocate for people to stop microwaving topics, especially topics that are outside of their focus of study. Okay. There are people on social media, Facebook, YouTube, multiple platforms that talk about things that are not within their scope of rigorous study. Okay. And there's a consequence to that. People speak on things that they know little of. They may have read something here or there, or even Googled something here or there, but then they have so much to say about it. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But when you do that and argue and quarrel and fuss and debate and try to go back and forth with people, then that's where most of the problems come in. All right. So having said that, the microwaving has to stop. So this is something I said for years, and I'm going to say it again. When we're dealing with identity, there are multiple levels of identity. I did a show on this. So go look in the archives and watch it. There are multiple levels of identity. There is a level of identity of dealing with continent that we use. What continent are you from? Okay, you hear people say, I am African. Well, we know Africa is a continent. That's a very shallow identity because it's very, very, very vague. Let me say peace to the brother, Brand Nubian. Welcome to the panel. So if you, when I open it up, you can definitely unmute yourself and chime in. So we have this continental identity. All right, that's a very shallow and vague identity because, continents is, huge land masses, right? So to be an African is like, okay, you're domiciled on the continent of Africa, but that doesn't tell me much, you know? Then you have nation or country, or in the international sense, a state. Because, you know, here in the United States of America, a state to us is like, you know, Florida, New York, Maryland, Georgia, etc. But in the international nomenclature and dialogue, a state will be equivalent to a country, but we say country. So Africa has several countries. So then you have people that will say, well, I am Nigerian, which means that they're from Nigeria, or they live in Nigeria. So they're saying they're a Nigerian national. I'm Kenyan, I'm Egyptian, I'm Sudanese, etc., etc. Okay, so that's a country level. Then below that level, now you're getting more and more detail. Below that level, you have people that will identify with an ethnic group or a tribe and things of that nature. So you have to understand this because in any conversation dealing with any aspect of identity, you have to respect what level you're speaking of and not to confuse any of those levels. So for instance, let's drill down to the ethnic level, to the tribal level, ethnic level. So we have people who refer to themselves as Luo. Many Luo people of that ethnic group or that tribe live in the country of Kenya. But then there are other Luo of the same ethnic group who live in
Yeah, that's my cue right there. Uganda, Tanzania, yeah.
okay. So I want you all to hear from a Kenyan herself. So that's why I paused. So you have Luo people who live in Kenya, Uganda, what was that one?
Tanzania, and a few others, but we'll go with the Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda.
Okay. So although they're all Luo, speak Duluo and whatever other language, the ones who live in Kenya will say, I'm Kenyan. The ones who live in Uganda will say, I am Ugandan. The ones who say I'm in Tanzania or Tanzania, they will say that they're that on a national level, dealing with the country. Okay, so we can't confuse the level of ethnicity or tribe with the level of nationality or being a citizen of a particular country. All right, so that's just the gist on that. All right, so now, and this is where Chief X is confusing this. And he did so because he said that Aswan, as he knows, is in Egypt. And there are people who live in Aswan who are Nubians. So he's dealing with a ethnic group of people who are referred to as Nubians. They live in Egypt. So he's saying because they are ethnically Nubians, they cannot be Egyptians. And that is absolutely false. All right? It's absolutely false. So let me deal with his claim just to kind of share this piece to Brother Sean in the chat. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me unshare that. Give me 1 second here. And let me share my screen. We're going to move over to something else Chief X said. All right, so on my screen now, let me try to make this big as possible here. All right. So this is good old Wikipedia, the online free encyclopedia. All right, so if you look this up yourself, Egyptian nationality law. All right, I'm just going to read it. Hopefully it's big enough for everyone to read. Egyptian nationality law is regulated by the Constitution of Egypt as amended. The Egyptian nationality law and its revisions and various international agreements to which the country is a signatory. These laws determine who is or who is eligible to be a national of Egypt. The legal means to acquire nationality, formal legal membership in a nation, differ from the domestic relationship of rights and obligations between a national and the nation, known as citizenship. Egyptian nationality is typically obtained under the principle of jus soli, that is, by birth in Egypt, or jus sanguinis, born to parents with Egyptian nationality. So notice it's jus soli or jus sanguinis. Okay? It can be granted to persons with an affiliation to the country or to a permanent resident who has lived in the country for a given period of time through a process called naturalization. All right, y'all see that? But let's skip on down here by birth. It says acquisition of nationality. Nationality can be acquired in Egypt at birth or later in life through naturalization. By birth. Those who acquire nationality at birth include children born anywhere who have at least one parent who is an Egyptian national by birth. Or, number 2, abandoned children or orphans discovered in the territory whose parents are even unknown. So this alone refutes Chief X's claim that in order to be an Egyptian, you have to have two Egyptian parents. He emphasized 2, and he said by blood. Whereas when we look this up very quickly, very easily on Wikipedia, it says 1 parent who has an Egyptian national. Or even if somebody found an abandoned or orphaned child whose parents are unknown. All right, and then it goes on to the naturalization process and etc. So I'm not gonna read through that. All right, so I just wanted to address that because the root of the confusion is to cross between a member of a nation and nationality / citizenship versus ethnicity, your ethnic identity, self-identity, how you self-identify. All right. Now, what I want to say to that, though, speaking of these people who are called Nubians who live in Egypt, they can be comfortably compared to African Americans in the United States in the sense of discrimination, marginalization, and treatment that the Egyptian government and its people gives them. Okay, so everyone knows the story of us African Americans here in this country. We have fought civil rights. We have been discriminated against. We have been victimized. The whole 9. The Nubians who live in southern Egypt, geographically southern Egypt, they have the similar claims. They do not like the treatment. They feel that they have a right to their ancient and ancestral lands and so on and so forth. And they're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for all that stuff. And their fight has been a long fight, and it continues to this very day. So they strongly identify themselves as Nubians, and they dislike the treatment that the Egyptian government and even other Egyptians give them. So on that level, they see themselves as fighting for something, and fighting for their identity. Okay, it's a big emphasis within their community for them to hold on strong to their identity. All right, because they feel like their identity is being washed away and slowly being evaporating out of history. Okay, so there's a strong fight among them over there. But they are Egyptian citizens. Okay, so that's that one. Let me share something else. Give me one moment. I'm just going down the line here. So what am I going to share this time? See if I can find it very quickly. Okay, here we go. All right, so hopefully you all can see this big enough on the screen. Okay, so this is from the Border Center for Support and Consulting, BSC. It was founded in 2013. I'm not sure when this was actually written, but I'm just going to read these two things here. It says, A, where is Nubia? 1, the geographical region located on the banks of the Nile from the first waterfall, and that's normally referred to as cataract. So you may hear the first cataract or second cataract, et cetera, et cetera. Some people do refer to them as waterfalls. All right, just as a FYI. The geographical region located on the banks of the Nile from the first waterfall south of Egypt and extends to the sixth waterfall in Sudan. The Nubians settled in this region since thousands of years in the form of a group of one ethnic origin joined by one language and distinctive culture richness, which contributed to shaping their habits and the form of their community. Number 2, the beginning of the Nubian problem in modern times. So let's read this, and this is what I want to get to. In 1841, after the Ottoman Caliphate issued the decree demarcating the southern border of Egypt, this was followed by the decision of the Minister of Interior to amend the borders of Egypt and Sudan on the basis of the bilateral agreement between Egypt and the British occupation on January 19, 1899, which involved the separation of 10 Nubian villages of the Halfa Center in Nubia province, villages south of latitude 22, to enter the borders of Sudan. So you got 10 villages and then 22. All right. The area inside Egyptian borders extended from the village of Adhandan in the south to the waterfall in the north, and the name of the province of Nubia, which was known as the Border Directorate, was changed to Aswan. All right. So this is Aswan again. Now, this is the name, the city Aswan that people should be familiar with. Is within Egypt to this very day. Thus, the administrative boundaries established by the British colonialism separated between the Nubians. However, communication continued despite the existence of the illusion borders until Egypt was formally separated from Sudan in 1951. And since then, here it is, and since then, the Nubians have become Egyptian citizens and Sudanese citizens. So it's very, very simple and clear to see that. So let me explain this further by showing a map. Let me see if I can get a map here. Give me 1 second. I want to share a map because I want to put this in context here. All right, so give me 1 second. Hopefully everybody's following. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. Dummy proof as possible, simple as possible, and the whole nine. All right, so give me a second here. See if we can get that pulled up. Because I want to show you a map as I'm discussing and explaining this next part, because I want to make it real clear. Okay, so here's a map of Egypt and Sudan. Okay. So now on this map, this is a modern map, by the way, you'll see the borders of Egypt and Sudan. I don't have my arrow to kind of highlight that, but If you so you can see the cursor. The cursor is pointing to the border. So that's the border. That's the Sudanese Egyptian border. Now, here is something that everybody needs to understand. When we say Nubia, there is no country called Nubia. And I hope that everyone understands that. There is no country called Nubia. Okay? So what is Nubia? Nubia is simply a region. It is a modern designation of a region. It is no different than the way we say Middle East. Okay? There's no country called Middle East. But when we say Middle East today, we're talking about a region of territory. So Nubia is not a country, it's a region. So when we say Middle East, going back to that, that's a region. But that region overlaps multiple countries. Okay? Name some countries that is considered within the Middle East. Anybody on the panel or anybody in the chat? Name some countries that are considered in the Middle East. Anybody on the panel can unmute themselves and answer if you want to answer.
Iraq,
Okay, we got Iraq. What else?
Iran, Turkey,
Okay, Iran, Saudi Arabia.
Yes, Saudi Arabia, Yemen.
Okay, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc. So you all get the point. Now, those what we named are different countries, but yet they're all within the region of what we call the Middle East. Okay, so now having said that, I want y'all to be clear on this. Having said that, the region that we call Nubia consists of two countries, and it always has. The region of Nubia overlaps with southern Egypt and northern Sudan. Southern Egypt, northern Sudan. So people who refer to themselves as Nubians who occupy this region, not a country, when you overlay a country to them, they become split. And that's what we just read. They become split. The political borders of Egypt and Sudan has split the people who occupied the region. And so some of them are Egyptian citizens and some of them are Sudanese citizens. It's just that simple. All right. Now, here's where another problem comes in. And this is what I've been advocating for years. And actually the recent conversations about all of this is a result of not following or taking my advice or suggestions of us eliminating Nubia out of our conversations. Nubians and Nubia. Number one, the area was not called Nubia in ancient times. The people were not called Nubians in ancient times. There are more recent historians, either Roman or Greek, that refer to that region as Nubia, Nubians. Okay? And it's just a region. It's not a country. Now, here's where the confusion comes in. Now, I want to play, I'm not sure if Chief X is going to say it next up, but Chief X goes on to say that the whole thing about the Egyptians being Nubians and how, it came from the south and so on and so forth. He speaks about that on his video. And so here's an easy way to clear and clean all of that stuff up. One, get rid of the name Nubian. I keep telling people that. Get rid of it. The ancient Egyptians referred to that region as Ta Nehisi. Remember that, Ta Nehisi. You have two regions that the Egyptians had names for, Ta Nehisi and Ta Seti. All right, Ta-Nehisi and Ta-Seti bumped up against each other. This is what modern time people call Nubia as a region. They call that whole area Nubia as a region, as a region today. And so when we say that the Egyptians came from the south, and I made this clear the other night on our channel. Go watch the previous video to this one. I made it very clear, and I know I sound like a broken record because I've been saying this for years, that the peopling of the Nile Valley and the Delta came from multiple directions. In other words, the Nile Valley and its delta was populated over a range of time by people migrating in from multiple directions. All right? For multiple reasons, various reasons, whether it's the drying of the Sahara at one point or what have you. All right? Now, when people are saying that the Egyptians come from the south, what's being referred to is that the structuring and the organization of statehood, the polity, and the administrative organization, the kingship structure, and things of that nature, everything administrative, came from the south. It came from a southward direction and moved northward until all of Egypt was unified. This is in the Egyptians' text, and it's in the material culture that archaeologists write about all the time. All right? And so how do we know this? Is one, the Egyptian writing system that we affectionately refer to as Sesh, Medew, Netcher, other people refer to as hieroglyphs. It has its genesis in terms of attestation in southern Egypt, from Abydos, as people refer to it. The Egyptians refer to that place as Abju, on down to Kustul. That's what you see on the map right here. Let me see if I could zoom in. Do we have another picture that's zoomed in? Okay, so you see where Kustul is here. That is right down at the southern border of Egypt. Now, what I want you all to do is to look up Kustul and then look up the Kustul seals, cylinder seals, incense burners, and so on and so forth. Look at the the icons, the iconic symbols and things like that. You're gonna recognize and see Egyptian motifs, Egyptian iconic things that you are familiar with, or that we will see later, all throughout quote unquote pharaonic Egypt. These material items are dated from 3800 BC all the way up to 3000 BCE. And we know that the unification of Egypt is dated to 3100 BCE. So this area here is an area that contributed heavily to the structuring of what they say as pharaonic Egypt. And so we find the administrative writings, the earliest writings of Sesh, Medew, Netcher, or hieroglyphs is found in this area. Now, by the way, Abju, I also have to mention the Nakada influence. Now, Nakada, either 1, 2, or 3, the Nakada culture, this area is an archaeological name. Nakada is an archaeological name used in archaeology. And it's located in what's referred to as Kom Ombo. So on the map, if I put my cursor, so you see Kom Ombo there. So from Kom Ombo, and you go from Kom Ombo down to Kustul, that area, that whole region right there, is ripe for the administrative contributions of dynastic Egypt. Because from Kom Ombo, you have, in ancient times, Kom Ombo was called Nubit, or Nubed. The word Nubed means gold. And the people living there, if we were to name them today, would be called Nubians. Because they would be people of the place called Nub, or the city of gold, Gold Town, Nubit, Nubetiu. We would refer to them that way today. The city was called in ancient times Nubit. You have Ombos and Kom Ombo. Both of them, two cities within Egypt, were called cities of gold, Nubit. So Nakada is an archaeological name for that area. And so these people from Kustul to Nakada are contributaries towards the structuring and the building up of the administrative body or statehood and the state formation of ancient Egypt. All right, Kemet. And so again, when we say that the Egyptians come from the south, we're not talking about the population of the Nile Valley and the Delta, because that happened early on. There were people there prior to 3,000 BCE. There were people in the Nile Valley. But the organization and the formation of a state, of a kingdom, that momentum and that movement came from the south in an upward direction, going towards the north. And they conquered people in the north and eventually unified Kemet. And everyone knows that as Sematawi, or the unification of the two lands that becomes Kemet, or ancient Kemet, or Tawi, as we would say, the two lands. All right. That's as simple and hopefully as plain as I can make this and say this. And I hope everyone understands it this way. All right. But look up Kustul. Let me see if I have something else that I can share with you all. So let me share to further elaborate. I want to share something else. Okay, so this particular document is a 538 page text. All right. So if you're really serious, I suggest that you get it. Let me see what page I'm on. 39. All right, I want to show you the title of it because I did not type it out. So this is from the University of Chicago Oriental Institute Nubian Expedition Volume 3. Now, if you want to know about the material culture of what's being called Nubia, people who are interested in that, they are clear and understand a prominent scholar in that study and field by Bruce Williams. Okay, I think his name is often abbreviated B.B. Williams. I don't know, I forget his middle name, but Bruce Williams is the scholar that most people cite when it comes to Nubian artifacts and archaeology and so on and so forth. All right. So this particular text is the excavations between Abu Simbel and the Sudan frontier. The A group Royal Cemetery at Kustul, Cemetery L. All right. So this whole text, 538 pages. Now what I want to do is I want to skip on down. Oh, here it is. Bruce Bayer Williams. Okay, so that's the guy. That's the go-to guy. And anybody who studies this, you're already familiar with this. I mean, you know, we've been dealing with his material and speaking on this since forever. All right. But let me get back to my page 39. I'm going to skip on down here. And there we are. Okay. So this is the introduction. And I'm not going to bore you all with reading all of this. I want to get right to it. But I got to give it a little context. So let's see. I don't want to skip any context here. All right, so let me just start right here. So highlight it just so you all can see where I am. And that does look kind of small. So let me see if I can blow this up. Does that help out? I hope that helps out. Let me see if I can move this over. All right, hopefully y'all can follow me. Okay, now I'm just gonna read. As incense burners. Oh, by the way, this was written in 1986. This is 86 work. This is how old this stuff is. I mean, but let's read. As incense burners with incised decorations were examined. Now, mind you, this is talking about Cemetery L, which is found in Coastal area. Okay, that the area I showed on the map earlier. Okay, this is right at the southern frontier of Egypt and Sudanese borders. All right. As incense burners with incised decorations were examined, some were found to have palace facades of the type that have been known to occur as postmarks before the first dynasty. The wealth in vessels and many other objects, and these palace facades indicated clearly that we were dealing with royal tombs. Okay, keep that in mind. Royal tombs. Cemetery L is a royal cemetery in Coastal. And with this idea in mind, the Coastal incense burner was re-examined with a view towards its restoration. The major features of a correct restoration were immediately clear, reinforcing strongly the royal nature of this cemetery and placing this object in the select company of a few documents of political history in this period. At this time, the proto-dynastic date of the cemetery was hardly challenged, and many months were devoted to classifying and describing pottery and objects, as well as research into the place of Cemetery L in the history of those cultures that occupied Nubia and the Sudan. Cemetery L was seen for the time as a cemetery of provincial royalty and ancestral to great things in Nubia, but pale when compared to the first achievements of Egyptian political organization, art, and architecture. However, as the preparation of the manuscript progressed from A group to Egyptian objects, now mind you, this is key, A group, make sure you take a note of A group, look up A group. They don't give them a name. They just refer to them as A group. You will hear A group, B group, C group, etc. So this is a category of a community of people that they have identified, but they just labeled them the A group. All right. So from the A group to Egyptian objects, persistent problems with the dating emerged. All right. Only the latest tombs in the cemetery seem to contain objects that ceased to be deposited in Egypt about the time of Jer, and they could be compared more precisely to the materials from the time of Aha and earlier. Early tombs in the cemetery, such as L24, contain pottery and stone vessels that had generally been dated before the first dynasty. A group of painted bowls and a stand from slightly later tombs that belong to the earlier and middle period of the cemetery also dated to the late pre-dynastic period. So we're all talking about pre-dynasty right now, okay? Other evidence from Torah, Beda, and elsewhere indicated that Cemetery L began well before the first dynasty. And the scratched serex from the cemetery related directly in date as well as type to Kaiser's group of pre-dynastic palace facades. So let's pause here for a second. For those of you who are not familiar with what a sorek is a known Egyptian symbol. The word itself means to make known. All right. And it is the sorek that every king in Egypt, the oldest names of the kings of Egypt, and the first of 5 names of Egyptian kings is the Heru name of the king. And the Heru name is put within a sorek. And on top of the sorek will be a falcon. Hence the Heru name. The falcon represents Heru, and the name was put inside a sorek. The sorek itself was the image of a palace. All right. And I'll show you one after I finish reading. Okay. So these are Egyptian motifs now, or what became Egyptian motifs, if you want to put it that way, prominent all throughout Egypt. for the rest of Egypt's history, Serex were used. But we're finding them down here in Kustal, old, pre-dynasty. All right, so keep it in mind now. And mind you, the Serek is royalty. It deals with royalty. It deals with kingship. It deals with palaces, etc. There's not some fly-by-night stuff here. All right? And people talk about the administration didn't come from the South. All right, so here we go. Now, the cemetery, I'm right here, so if y'all will catch up to me. The cemetery was mostly earlier than the modest Dynasty 0 tombs of Ka, Namir, and B, which is they say is Iri Hor at Abydos, and not contemporary with the later great monuments of the First Dynasty. The larger tombs of Cemetery El actually equaled or exceeded these in size and elaboration. What they're saying is that the royal tombs that they found in Abydos, in comparison to this particular cemetery, this cemetery was a little bit more grander. But it's pre-dynastic. All right, keep all that in mind. I'm trying to get to a point where I can stop. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to. Okay, let's keep reading here. Professor Seal had excavated a cemetery of a fully royal tomb that equaled the elaboration of its counterparts in Egypt. L24 was some generations earlier than any tomb in the B cemetery at Abydos. Several generations. Apart from other firsts in representation and art, the Kustal incense burner stands out at this writing, not as a provincial imitation of some unknown Egyptian monument, but as the first self-evident pharaonic monument from the Nile Valley, the first unequivocal representation of a pharaoh in his person, the first definite linking of the pharaoh's figure with the Horus falcon, palace facade, and boat that later became the sacred bark, the first self-evident representation of an event linked with the royal sacrifice, and the first datable monumental ceremonial object that compares with the slate palettes and mace heads of Egypt. The evidence is summarized below. All right, and that's what I'm going to skip. I'm not going to read all of that, but I'm making this point to demonstrate, and we always say demonstration beats conversation. So here we are in Kustal. There's a cemetery there, a little bit more elaborate than the royal cemetery, the old royal cemetery in Abydos or Abju. Okay? And they're finding these materials there with Egyptian motifs on it that we see later, or we see a continuity of all of these motifs, these symbols, these iconography and things like that all throughout the history of Egypt. All right. So this is earlier. You're not going to find this in Asia. You're not going to find this stuff at this date elsewhere like that. Keep that in mind. And again, people fronting like the administration didn't come from the South. All right, so what else can I go to? Give me one moment. I want to share something else with you. Give me a second here. I hope y'all understand, and I'm trying to make this as simple as possible and share this. Okay, so that was that particular book. I showed you the name of the book and everything like that. So make sure, I hope you all screenshot, write it down and whatnot, because I didn't mean for this to be like a presentation, anything. I just want to address this. This is, I actually just saw Chief X video, and so this is not even something that a lot of time was put into at all. All right, but I hope you all are following. Okay, so now this particular book, this is called Before the Pyramids. Again, this is also from the Oriental Institute, Chicago. This is called Before the Pyramids, The Origins of the Egyptian Civilization. Now, you would think you would think that anybody who wants to discuss the origins of the Egyptian civilization. Matter of fact, let me get this on the screen. I'm up here talking and don't even have it on the screen. Okay, you would think that anybody who is going to have a discussion about the origin of the Egyptian civilization or try to argue against what is discussed about it and so on and so forth and all that good stuff, that at least they would do some research on what the scholars are saying. Like, what is the scholarly consensus? What are the arguments? Are scholars debating among each other? What's what? And they would be familiar with resources, texts such as this. Before the pyramids, the origins of the Egyptian civilization, edited by Emily Teeter. And everyone who studies this stuff should be familiar with Emily Teeter, all right? Now, I want to go on down. Matter of fact, this is written in, let's get the date, 2011. All right, just so you all can see the copyright. Let's see, where do I want to go in here? Like I said, I did not prepare this for or to be a presentation, but there's something in here that I want you all to see. Oh, I'll tell you what, I can go straight to it. Right here. Okay, this is on page 88. This is page 88 of this text. And what I want to read, let's see if I can make this bigger. Hopefully y'all can see that better. All right, I'm going to back up a bit to this paragraph right here. This is where I'm at, so y'all can keep up with me. So it says, the different tiers of tombs by size and wealth show that there were social classes. Okay, she's speaking about the same area. She's speaking at this point. I'm saying she edited this, so I'm not sure who's actually the writer of this particular portion. So let me stop saying she. The text says, at this point in this text, it's talking about the same area. Kustal is talking about the cemetery El and its surroundings and all of the artifacts that have been found there, et cetera, all right? So notice that you see Syrex boats, processional combinations. See, there is cemetery L, okay? They're even quoting Williams and Logan, the co-author, okay, from their later work, 1987 work. Okay, so I'm just kind of give you all context, because like I said, I don't want to bore you all with a lot of reading. Okay, the different tiers of tombs by size and wealth show that there were social classes, and cylinder seals show that these classes had administrative, let's go to the top, functions. Again, y'all see, y'all are seeing where I'm going with this. Administrative functions. Although often considered Egyptian imports, these seals differ in design from those found in Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, or Southern Palestine. Let me repeat that. Or Southern Palestine. And four examples parallel the style and aspects of design on the Kustal incense burner. And we're going to see the picture of it in a minute. One from Kustal Cemetery L, Tomb 17, is from a very rich but secondary burial, while two others are from rich tombs at Faras and Saras West. In particular, the Frost seal shows Syrex, there you are again, of the distinctive Kustal incense burner type. All right, keep going. A rounded version, where was I? Yeah. A rounded version of this Syrex also appears on the most interesting of these, a set of ceilings from the stone block between the two cache pits of Nakada 3, date at Siali in the northern part of the country. There are many extremely interesting details on this ceiling. They're talking about cylinder seals, they call them ceiling, among which we should note incense burners with flames on them, a saluting man on a palanquin or chair, a falcon on the Syrex, and a bow above a rectangle with rounded corners, a form of the land sign for Nubia at this period. Now, they're still using the word Nubia, but as I explained, that's problematic. It causes confusion. If you're not into this, you're going to be confused. Now, naming Ta Seti, the appellation for Nubia used for millennia, this sealing puts a name to the country ruled by the Kustal dynasty. There is evidence that the Egyptians themselves recognized it as one of the lands alongside Ta Mehu, Ta Shema'u, and Ta Chehinu. And then she quotes Williams on that. So having said that, I'm not going to read anymore and bore you all. Having said that, let's look at these cylinders here. So here, figure 910 is the archaic Horus incense burner. So here, and I wish I could have my arrow, but you can see my cursor here. Here's a king who is enthroned. He's sitting on a throne. He has a flail in his hand. You see the falcon here and a sarek. And if this wasn't badly damaged, it would probably be a name in there. It's usually a name in there that would indicate the king's name. At this period in history, the name may have not been placed in there, but we know all throughout Pharaonic, what they call Pharaonic Egypt or dynastic Egypt, the king's names were found within the sarek. But here you see the bow. Here. All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's go to the Siali seal. This one here. Let me see if I can blow this up more. So let's go here. So you see this particular seal here. I'm gonna get it on the on the screen for you all. Bigger, because I wanna show you all some things on it. So give me 1 second here. So let's get that up on the screen. All right, so here we are. So this is the Siali seal. And so this is what we were just looking at. And so in this seal, you see a king. So let's talk about what we see here. And if I know y'all can see my cursor. So above the seated man, you see a falcon perched on top of a sarek. You see that? I'm gonna wave my cursor around so y'all can see that. That is a well-known Egyptian symbol icon. Well known. So well known. As a matter of fact, let me show you what a sarek looks like that we're more used to. There you are right there. All right. That's a sarek. You see the falcon precisely carved. Look how beautiful that is. That's Heru perched on top of a sarek. And within the top portion of the sarek is the king's name. It's either King Jed or Jer. All right. And so you see the very word sarek on the right hand side, the glyphs that spell out that word sarek, and the determinative of the sarek to explain what is meant there. That is what a sarek is. That is the Horus name of the king. It's the oldest of the 5 names that kings have all throughout Egyptian history. All right, so let's go back to this incense burner from Siali. So the man seated there has above him a symbol for kingship. That's not the only symbol of kingship. He also has a flail that's coming out, that's bent in front of him. Behind him is the royal tail that kings are known to wear in Egypt. All right. You know, it's the tail of the bull that kings are known to wear. Then in front of him, you'll see a bow. And below the bow, you see the rounded corner square for the Ta. So this is one of the earliest, if not the earliest. And I always say it that way. It's one of the earliest, if it's not the earliest, mention of Ta Seti. Okay. And people like to call Ta Seti Nubia. And so hence that's where confusion comes in. Again, because people think that Nubia is a country somewhere and whatnot. It's not. It's just a region, like the Middle East. You know, people say there's no such thing as a Middle East. Well, if you're gonna say there's no such thing as a Middle East, then stop saying Nubia. Because under that logic, there's no such place as Nubia. Then it's a region. All right. So I just wanted to show you all that, and let's see anything else to share. Do I have anything else? Let's see. Well, I don't have to go any further in here. But I just wanted to kind of show you all that. Let me stop sharing. All right. All right. So now back to the matters at hand. Okay. So let's recap real quick, because I can get long with it. So I'm doing a quick recap. So again, one, Chief X said that you have to have two parents that are born in Egypt or Egyptians by blood in order to be Egyptian. We already showed that that's false just by pulling up just a quick thing on Wikipedia, and all you gotta do is look at the amendments and Constitution of the Arab Republic of Egypt to this very day. All right, so that's just out the water right there. Then when we refer to Nubians, we have to understand that Nubians as they identify themselves today and that other people have today, is an ethnic group. And this ethnic group is losing its identity. This is what they're saying themselves. And they're fighting for their identity. They're fighting to keep their identity. And along with their identity comes with their cultural practices and everything. And see, we have to understand that in a sense, they can be likened to Native Americans as well, because the same concerns Native Americans have here in America, where they want to hold on to their identity and their cultural ways, but they also tie into land. They stress land, their ancestral land. So the United States government created these territories for Native Americans and so on and so forth, and incorporated them into certain laws so that they could be part of territories and protected by the Bureau of Indian Affairs and et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is what the Nubians over in Egypt are trying to do as well. They're trying to get recognition and the same kinds of concessions that Native Americans in America has gotten from the United States government. They feel like they've been ill-treated and the whole nine. Now, they have a Nubian village over there, but in the Nubian village, they this is where you'll hear their advocates and protesters, prominent activists among Nubians who are trying to petition the government for all these kinds of things. And as you know, if you don't know, you know that their ancestral homeland, that area, was destroyed by flood purposely. They built a dam. They built the Aswan Dam and created, I think, what's the lake called? Nasir? I believe it's called. Somebody can correct me. Keep me honest. Somebody keep me honest here. And matter of fact, I'm not sure if I pinned the Emicat, if you don't mind, if you could repost the panel link, because I want to make sure anybody who has want to share their thoughts, they can jump on the panel. All right, so just want to keep that going. All right, so what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. That's what I say. Never pay attention to the chat. I glance over at the chat, then all of a sudden I said, "Oops, the link to the panel is not there." Let me just get the panel link pinned. All right, there we go. All right, it should be pinned to the top for everybody. Anyway, so again, I'm going to extend the invitation. If you want to come on the panel and share your thoughts, by all means, you are invited. Any and everybody is invited. All right, we only get 10 people in here, so make your way. Okay, so Lake Nasir, somebody can correct me. Somebody keep me honest about it. That was created as a result of the Aswan Dam being built. They had to move Egyptian monuments, replace some things, and they displaced lots of people in that process. And the people who were affected by that are these Nubians that we're talking about. And estimates show that it's from 50 to 100,000 of them that got displaced and had to was forced to move, and so on and so forth. So, you know, rightfully so, they're asking for concessions. They're asking for protections and other things from the Egyptian government. They live there. They live in Aswan. They live in Egypt, but yet they're being discriminated against, marginalized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so that's the history with that. So anyway, I'm not sure if I really have anything else to elaborate. I only wanted to cover that one point that Chief X is making, and I start at the beginning as usual, because if you fix the beginning, then everything else will be either irrelevant, or you can set up a new trajectory for a different conversation. All right, and again, the problem is that people tend to try to talk about subjects that is not their area of focus. And I don't have a problem with that, because we all dibble and dabble. If we get interested in something, we may pick up something real quick and do a surface or cursory look at it and things like that. So I don't have a problem with that. My problem and one of my biggest problems is when people do that, but then take a stance and are willing to debate and argue and quarrel, fuss, and fight about something that they know little of, and it messes it up for everybody. Because if they do that and other people in the audience are listening, they're gonna be fed misinformation or baseless information that's shallow, microwave, not researched properly. No real method has been applied. No rigor has been put into it, and that's damaging. That's very damaging. Then you got months and months of arguing back and forth over some misinformation, instead of adding to the body of knowledge on good information, quality information. That's what we need more of. So anyway, everybody's invited on the panel. I think that's all I had to kind of share with that. Like I said, I didn't prepare a presentation or anything. This is something that definitely at the last minute. So anybody on the panel, now, let me get back over here. So I got 4 people on the panel: Brother Jehudi, Brother Brand Nubian, I believe that's Zane. So if y'all have any comments or anything like that, by all means. And the link is in the chat, y'all.
Don't nobody want that smoke. I didn't even see Chief X's claims or nothing, or his video.
You know what's funny though, is that when Asar was doing his presentation, everybody was joking that Chief X is watching Asar and gonna do 23 or 20 videos and watch out, because Chief X gonna come back with a whole bunch of videos. And sure enough, boy, he came back with a video.
So coming a mile away.
Exactly. Instead of 23, he made it 23 hour one video, but 23 hours. It was 2 hours and 2.5 hours. But shout out to Chief X though, because like I said, I don't want people to instigate. See, I do not like people to take things, instigate, and try to start something, put batteries in people's backs or whatnot. I don't have no problem with Chief X as a person or none of that kind of stuff. So that's not gonna work with me and everything. So shout out to Chief X. I'm actually using his point as a teaching moment. So I appreciate it. So I got to give Chief X a shout out for that. Thanks. Dua. But click that link. All right, let me see who's in the chat. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let me go over to the chat. All right, so I tried to make that as plain as possible to you all. And let me back up. Let me go up. I gotta go back as far as I can go. See, we got Brother Sean. Sean, click the link. because that's too much typing to read. I want to see what Sean's thoughts are. Sean, if you're in the chat, click the link. Oh, I can go pretty far. Hold up, let me go way. I can go way back. Okay. Nah, that's too far. I'm back at the beginning. Okay. All right, so bear with me, y'all. I'm trying to catch up on the chat and the conversation. And that's another thing. Just so you all know, like, I really appreciate everybody tuned in and everything. But the way that, I like to structure and conduct things, I don't pay attention to the chat while I'm, sharing information per se. When I'm finished, then I look at the chat. So if you have a question or you want to get my attention, save it, for when I'm paying attention to the chat and everything, because I'll just assume that people are having a conversation among themselves and everything. But I do miss questions that way because people may not know. All right, and statements and things like that. So I apologize. So if you had a question or something and you don't want to come on the panel, repeat it. Type it in now, and I'll see it. All right, because right now I have to sift through everybody's comment. Let's see. Oh, shout out to Hush Your Mouth. We got Antoine Germain, Hush Your Mouth, in the building. He actually did a trip to Egypt, been to Aswan, met the Nubians, and he said they're not kinky haired. Yep, and here he is. I spoke him up.
Aswan, met the Nubians.
Okay, I think you got to mute your YouTube side. Antoine, if you hear me, you got to mute your YouTube side.
Yep, and here he is. I spoke him up. Met the Nubians. Okay, I think you got to mute your.
Hotep, can you hear me? Antoine,
yeah, Hotep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hotep, you hear me?
Yes.
Hotep, family.
It's been a minute.
Peace, Hotep.
Yeah, man, it's been a long minute, man. It's been an African minute.
Hotep.
Oh yeah. I'm still studying though. You know how it goes. Don't sleep on that. Right. But I definitely watched the Chief X video. I found him entertaining. I have talked to him a couple of times on different situations, different subjects. But as far as this, I think excellent presentation. We always go back to the evidence and go back to the actual physical things we can point at. And so going back to the incense holder and going back to the like you said, the administration, we got to understand, like you said, you got to understand that people came from all directions, but when you look at how the government and the art and things like that and pottery and stuff like that and burial systems were formed, all that information, the thing that stuck or the thing that caused the foundation to be firm was the stuff that came up from the South,
Exactly.
So that's what we got to look at when we, do the studying and lay down the law. Now, the thing that he does have, or the thing that, like I said, I played devil's advocate. I don't know if he was invited or not. And I didn't see any snippets of his videos, but you said you didn't take a lot. You just do something together real quick. But a lot of times, we do snippets to where you can have his actual commentary. But
yeah, I think you came on a little late because I that was the first thing I did. I played like 10 minutes of his video.
Okay, so the one point he talks about as far as like the map that shows the geographical coloration, as far as like how that goes down. The higher it is, it's lighter. Then darker, the further down you go, it's darker as it relates to the equator.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we probably have to address or need to address if something was done, lengthy. I didn't get a chance to see a SARS presentation yet either, so I'm not sure if he went to that either. The other thing that I was looking at, or I was considering when looking at the topic, was like, dang, I can't even think of it now. I should wrote my stuff down, but yeah. So I'm gonna sit here for a minute, and it'll come back to mind, and I'll just discuss it as we get more into it. But it was one other thing that I was thinking about that he shared that I want to address. But so that's the one thing, was the geographical map where it shows the color as far as how dark the people are. But as you stated, we coming up from the South, Oh yeah, what I'm gonna say as it relates to this video is because you kind of start off with the modern day and talking about Aswan,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of people are interested in understanding, having a better understanding as to the origins of the actual Rimich or the people in Kemet in ancient times. And so
Yeah.
that's when they're pulling up these old skeletons and showing, the hair being straight or different things like that with the kings and queens. So a lot of people are interested in that. And I
Yeah.
guess as far as we go with the DNA study as well. But I'll sit back. I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Okay.
And
Now
I'll
those
hop in
are
if I think of anything.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, man. It's been like I said, it's been a long minute.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. I'm still in the mix.
but those are some great points to bring up and even to discuss. So just in a like summary way or cliff note way, the color map is understood. That's a UV, the UVB map for skin color, or the skin color map as it's been nicknamed, and so on and so forth. That should be. I don't think anybody does or should challenge that. That's something that is self evident at this point. The closer you are to the equator, the more UVB, UVA, and C, etc. rays that you're gonna get, and your skin is gonna react. The human being, we're gonna react to it, and we're gonna be darker. Period. And it doesn't mean just Africa either. It's all the way around the planet. That's why you find dark skinned people all around the planet. So dark skin does not equal African by any stretch of the imagination, but for some reason, some people tend to try to do that, because you got real dark skinned people who live in India, Australia, in the Americas. Any of those places that's you get closer, you get to the equator. So yeah, so that's a general, that's very, that's definitely a what do you call it, boilerplate for skin color. But again, when it comes to identity, skin color is not the litmus. There are way more different layers and levels to identity. So just because somebody is darker skin and whatnot doesn't make them this or that. Like I said. So when it comes to Egyptians, your skin color did not make you an Egyptian. The Egyptians did not have a how you go to the Home Depot or go to the interior decorating store and you want to paint your walls, and they have these swatches of color everywhere where you pick your color and then the person mix your paint for you. The Egyptians did not have a bunch of swatches at the border and was matching it to people's skin color and say, okay, you're an Egyptian, you're not, you're not, you're not, you are. They didn't do that. Who does that? That's retarded to think that. So skin color was not the litmus to make or break who's an Egyptian, who's not an Egyptian. Culture is king. Culture is king. It is the culture that is at the top of the food chain when it comes to identity. Not just culture, but culture is king. All right. And I always say that, and cultural anthropologists will back me on that because I'm taking my cues from them, the experts in the field. So culture is king. And within culture, there's a lot of elements. Culture is like the umbrella term for other, a lot of elements, the things that shape the behavior of the community itself, how they solve their problems, how they protect one another, the clothing that they wear, the languages that they speak, all the foods that they eat, all that is incorporated in culture. That's how you get your strongest identity. Okay, then you got memberships within nations and ethnic groups and so on and so forth. So these are different layers, and I spoke about that earlier, and whatnot. So what makes an Egyptian? We have text. So I talked about this before. So there's a text where, so for example, there's a text, the tale of Senuhe. Okay, and I'll just give you a cliff note summary of this particular story. There's a guy who was born and raised in Egypt, a straight up Egyptian, 100% Egyptian. He leaves Egypt for circumstances I'm skipping. So he leaves Egypt. He establishes a new life outside of Egypt, somewhere in the Levant. So he meets up with the people in Levant. He ends up raising in the ranks over there and becomes a prominent celebrity, what we would call a celebrity today. So he's a prominent influencer celebrity. So if he had an Instagram account, he would have like 2 million followers. But no, but he becomes a prominent person in a foreign territory. All right. Very prominent. But all the while that he's living outside of Egypt, he wanted to make sure that when he dies, he wanted to be buried in his homeland. Okay. And in order to achieve that, when he got older, as he got older, he wanted to come back home to Egypt and be buried there. So he had to beseech the permission of the king of Egypt, etc., etc. So long story short, he comes to Egypt. He was no longer considered an Egyptian. Even though he was born and raised and grew up in Egypt, he left and made a living and made a life and adopted the culture of a foreign entity. So when he came to Egypt, he had to be re-Egyptianized before he was to be considered an Egyptian again, and therefore he could be buried in his homeland. That's the short and skinny of that story, but it's a whole bunch more to it. But that's a short and skinny, and he was successful at doing it. All right, so you can stop being an Egyptian and then become an Egyptian again, but it's based on other factors. It wasn't skin color. What happened? He was born and he had one skin color. Then when he left, it was different. When he came back, like, nah, your skin color changed. You're no longer Egyptian. No, it was about his culture, his behavior, his everything about him. His identity had changed. That's what changed. Then he came back and he had to be re-Egyptianized to be considered an Egyptian. And that goes on to this very day in African communities, to this very day. I had a brother on that gave a whole testimony that he and his mother and his father are from two different groups of people, subgroups of a larger group of people. And I think he stayed mostly with his mother, but then when he wanted to go to his father's group of people or whatever, they considered him not one of them. So they had to initiate him. They had to groom him and cultivate him in their ways and so on and so forth for him to become one of them. Even though that's his father is one of them. So anyway, that's how it goes. And so that's in ancient times. It had nothing to do with color. They didn't have a concept of race. We have to understand that the concept of race today is a modern social construct. It has no reality in biology. Race is not a biological reality. So whenever people talk about race and they bring up DNA, stop them in their tracks. And the reason why is because they're about to get pseudo on you and not even know it. Because race is not a biological reality. It's just not. It is a social construct. It is constructed for social classes and groupings. This is how we group human beings today, and it's a modern one. We group human beings based on these categories today, and it boils down to lookership. Does somebody look black, like a black person, or look what we would consider a socially white person, et cetera, et cetera? And it's prominent in the United States. It's the heaviest in the United States. We have this class system. But anyway, so that's that. What else? I'm trying to think what else you said. So the skin map and that, yeah.
Yes. So basically, we know most of his stuff is promo. Kind of promoting. But so it's a modern day construct that we try to place on a 3,000-year-old, 4,000, 5,000-year-old time period that doesn't weigh up. So his argument or an approach is a lot of ancient or a lot of our elders or a lot of people have made money kind of promoting that the ancient Egyptians were kinky haired black. Now, not that no
Yeah.
one came out and said this, but this is almost like a uh, black pride type thing or some of that nature,
Mm.
going back to that era. And it's, has it outplayed itself, or is it still something that a lot of people use? Because we'll see where it's been mixed with chakras, or where it's been mixed with different um, pseudo type things to help promote Kemet or promote Egypt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I guess it's a term got popular nowadays. They say blackologists, blackology. You know, people that are pushing this black thing in unnecessary places, and Egypt is one of them, where we have this push to make Egypt black. But see, it's not just to make Egypt black. It's to see that's a longer or more deeper issue, because people latch on to Egypt because Egypt is glorified, rightfully so. Now the romanticism and the commercialization, we could do without all that romanticism, but Egypt stands on its own merit as one of the top ancient civilizations by far. And so when they make it black, then they have to make it a specific type of black to link it to African Americans, us here who we've lost our identity. And so we have been on the lowest of the low and been through the Holocaust of transatlantic slave trade and the whole nine. So we have to have something that we could be prideful about. And so we tend to latch on to Egypt and say that those are our ancestors. And so that and a whole bunch of other stuff I'm not mentioning contributes to all this kind of stuff. And so they say, Egyptians, so they over exaggerate a lot of the claims or a lot of the actual realities that's on the ground. The Egyptians being black or dark skin, kinky hair, and this, that, and the third, when those are exaggerations. Egypt was not a homogeneous group of people. Not everybody was any one thing in Egypt. So that right there is kind of nonsense that we have to stop. But it continues, and I think that's the original spirit that Chief X is pushing back on, and I understand that. I understand it, because the romanticism does get out of hand, and people need to step up to be like, listen, y'all gotta stop trying to make everybody black, man. Christopher Columbus is he's black, King James is black. We done been in the 1990s and stuff, emphasis on Jesus being black, Muhammad being black, Buddha is black now, Krishna is black. Who else? I mean, Genghis Khan is black.
Yeah,
Santa
no
Claus is
problem.
black. Napoleon's gonna be black. Champoleon's gonna be black soon. I'm saying everybody's gonna be black.
All right. One last thing, and I'm gonna get up out of here. Uh, Chris Knowles and I actually met up. I want to say maybe 5 years ago, up in maybe 4 years ago, up in Chicago at the museum. Saw got the chance to see replicas of the incense holders, and pretty
Oh,
much
okay.
saw that stuff throughout the museum at the University of Chicago. Picked up that book by Emily and some more linguistic books when we was up there, so that was pretty cool to go up
Oh,
there
that's
to that
nice.
museum and check out that stuff with Chris.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's good. I encourage everybody to go. Yeah, Chicago. The Oriental Institute of Chicago is probably one of the g- best places to go to in the United States. Of course, you got the Met Museum, but in terms of American Egyptology, you got it's in Chicago. You got was it Brown University? You got James P. Allen and those folks, James Hotch. All those folks are out there. And yeah, they're doing their thing for sure. So if you ever get a chance to go to Chicago and go out there, that's a must place to stop at. So yeah, I hope you got a lot of pictures and stuff out there.
I'm gonna say Hotep Abbott. I was just want to check in, play devil advocate for a little bit. You know how I do. Ask some questions, get some some wheels turning, some brains thinking, and try to look at it from all perspectives. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah,
peace
nah, that's
out.
good. All right, peace
Good
to you,
catching up
man.
with y'all.
All
All
right,
right.
Shimon Hotep, man. All right, Hotep.
Peace, Sonny.
Peace, peace.
Sure, what's up?
All right, all right. So let me see what's going on in the chat, boy. I say people in chat be having the chat have a life of its own sometime. I'm trying to catch up. Let's see. It is better for the blacks that they don't buy the ancient Egyptian propaganda, but whatever, do as you like. All right, I'm not sure. Hidden truths. I'm not sure what hidden truth is. Points that are being made. I am trying to see. He can debunk everyone with one sentence. Let me show some of these comments because y'all maybe y'all can revisit them because I'm a little lost. I'm trying to catch up. So pardon me. Trying to catch up. Is it so? I guess Israel is the same as Palestine. Okay, LOL. I don't know what that means. Let's see what hidden truths of the universe say. Okay, buddy, but there is no ancient Egypt. I'm black and Egyptian, so I'm unbiased. Just saying truth. He said, but there is no ancient Egypt. See, I'm out of the loop on the conversation, so I can't make a comment about that.
I don't
Yeah,
think.
just to keep you up. Oh, go ahead, Sanjay.
Nah, go ahead. You can say it.
I was just saying we just need to leave that one alone because he's probably having his own arguments in his head. He doesn't like us saying ancient Egyptians for some reason. I want to refer to the rematch, I guess, because he lives in Egypt. So whatever it is, that's just beyond us at this point. So we just go and bypass that and let him resolve that in his own time.
Oh, but see, this is the thing. I don't mind people having a problem with saying ancient Egypt because we can quickly flip the switch and use all ancient Egyptian terms. We can say Remech. We have no problem saying Remech. We can say Sesh
He had a
or
problem with
Netcher.
Metch too. He had a problem with
Yeah, he
that too.
doesn't like us saying the rematch are the ancient Egyptians. So basically, we could say rematch or we could say ancient Egyptians, as in using the indigenous term or using the English translation. But he doesn't like none of that. So that's why I said it's beyond us. So we probably have to say oogla boogla.
Nah, well, see that gets silly, but just for the listening
I don't
audience.
think you two hang
Oh,
with
go
that.
ahead.
So I mean,
Okay,
I don't
so
hang with you at all. So I don't think I don't see what's getting.
okay, maybe it's just silly, but just for the listening audience, though, just want to make sure everyone understands that who we're calling ancient Egyptians, they refer to themselves as the Remech, the Rakit, the Remech. Those are two prominent terms that they refer to themselves, and other terms for the local areas and things like that. Ancient Egypt itself was not obviously called ancient Egypt. It was called Kemet from the 11th dynasty forward. And that's something that some people don't know. They think that Kemet was called Kemet all along, but that's not true. It wasn't called Kemet until the 11th dynasty moving forward. Prior to that, it was referred to as Khenu, which means the residence or the interior, and it was also called Tawi, which reflects two lands. The W and Y, the we part of Tawi is a dual ending, and it's referring to the two regions. The word Ta is often translated as land or earth, but it also and needs to be translated as region. It's a region. So the ancient Egyptians or the Remech saw their land as two entities combined. So they refer to it as Sama Tawi, which means the unified two regions. All right. Samatawi or Samatawi. And that's the unified two regions. And those two regions were named Ta Mehu. Here's that word Ta again, which is the region of Mehu. And then you have Ta Shema'u, the region of Shema'u. And so Ta Mehu and Ta Shema'u unified and therefore was called Samatawi or simply Tawi. Then it became known as Kemet later. Also, you have names like Ta Mary and Ta Seti, the land of the hoe, Ta Mary, and the land of the bow, Ta Seti. All right, just so everybody know, Ta Mehu means the lower land. The word Mehu means something that's submerged, something that's down under the bottom, your feet. All right, Shemau is narrow. Okay, and that is a clue to let you know that they identified the narrowness of the valley and the broadness of the delta. They didn't use the word valley. They didn't use the word delta. They used the word Mehu, and they used the word Shemau. It's just that simple. No semantics, flim flam, or games being played here. All right. So hopefully that's clear. What else? Am I missing? I'm trying to catch up in the chat, man. I'm like way behind. If you all see something in the chat that you all would like to address, go ahead or bring it up.
Brother Saw's in the chat. That's how long we've been on.
Oh, we've been on, man, an hour and 55 minutes. Yeah, we've been on an hour and 55 minutes. Yeah, so listen, if Asar is in the chat, man, blame everything on him, man. Asar is going around YouTube land, stirring up trouble, stirring pots, boy. He got, we said Chief X was going to make 100 videos after, and he sure enough did. He made one long video. I caught it, and I only addressed the first point he made. I didn't even get into any other points, and I probably won't, unless something sticks out where I want to create a teaching moment. And shout out to Chief X. Like I said, I don't want anybody instigating, twisting my words and say, "Oh man, the brother Joe did a whole show on you, man, and he put you to shame, boy. He killed you, and this and that, and put a battery in his back." And then Chief X, in his cigars and stuff, then he make 23 videos with my name in the title. So I put his name in the title like I do anybody, because I don't do the innuendo thing, and I don't have no ill feelings or anything for Chief X or whatever. It's a reference. Are the Nubians Egyptians? And I just put Chief X's name in there because I'm addressing his first point. It's, first thing that he said. That's it. So I wish Chief X was
I got one question.
was in the chat. Yeah. You had a
I
question?
wanted to say, yeah, you kind of answered my first question earlier on about Nubia and what country they are, what nation they had, but there was no such thing. So I don't see what
Right.
what the toponym of them. But I don't think they called themselves Nubians in the first place.
Right.
So
So just to kind of
question wasn't.
Oh, go ahead.
Now my question was, didn't the term Nubia come from the Germans, I believe?
Well,
And they described that area.
Well, let me just
more like a derogatory.
Okay, yes and no. So let me just back up a bit. I just want to repeat a couple of things for people who jumped on late, right? There's no country Nubia. And Nubia is a region. It is an identifiable territorial region that we identify, no different than how we say Middle East, okay? Middle East is a region. Although it's not a country, but it's actually a real region that we can identify on a map, by drawing an imaginary border, and say, okay, that's a region, Middle East. And so we got several countries in the Middle East. So the Middle East as a region is a container for multiple countries. Yemen, what we name, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to Nubia, it's a region. And this region covers, today, it will cover two countries. A portion of it is in southern Egypt, and a portion of it is in northern Sudan. So Nubia is a region that happens to split between two political states, countries. And so the people that are in this region ancestrally, they have been split. So you got Nubians that live in Egypt today, and you got Nubians that live in Sudan today. The ones that live in Egypt today, they're Egyptian citizens. The ones in Sudan, they're Sudanese. But ethnically, they identify and they're trying to hold on to their identity as Nubians. Period. All right, so I just want to say that. And then what you were asking as far as the name Nubia being used derogatory. So I said yes. I answered you yes and no because there's an aspect of the word Nubian that is used derogatory because it's associated with slave. Okay, and I don't have the material to share right this second, but we can do a show, a show on that. There's a few books, that talk about the warring between these two tribes and how one tribe captured the other people and they referred to them as Nuba, coming from the word Nuba and things like that, where it's used derogatory. But outside of that, you have it used in scholarship
I thought they used
to be synonymous with. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying because I thought in their theme parks, and they had human zoos.
Oh, that very well may be so. Now, but here's the thing. So this is what I was getting to. The word Nubian in scholarly writing and things like that, especially with Egyptology and whatnot, and prior to, Nubia is synonymous with black or Negro, and we know Negro is black, and so they swapped the word Negro in scholarly writing with the word Nubian, and so it always been associated. There's association there with black. So the Nubian pharaohs or the black pharaohs of ancient Egypt, 25th dynasty, black pharaohs, so you see this association with black and Nubian all the time. And so what that does is separates the black achievements from other than black achievements. And so this early Egyptology was bent on that to keep that separate. But that's not just that. See, that's a what his name? Hegelian or Hegelitian, as I would say, stance and mentality, where the elite scholars of these European institutions of intellectual circles, they viewed Africa in three parts. North Africa was referred to as Caucasian Africa or European Africa. The valley, the Nile Valley that we call Egypt and a little part of Sudan or whatever was considered Asia. And then you have what we call sub-Saharan Africa, but they call Africa proper. They refer to that as Black Africa, and they describe that Black Africa as being wild, childish, emotionless, unable to have philosophy, unable to have civilization and the whole nine. And they say that if it weren't for the Muslims coming in contact with people in Black Africa, that they wouldn't have and been civilized. And that's the view that they had. And so this view is in the intellectual circles. This is partly coming out into the early Egyptology and so on and so forth. That's why you have this play there. And I tell people don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe by doing all that. So anyway, so what you're saying, I can't answer to directly in terms of any Germans naming zoos after the word Nubia and stuff. But it wouldn't shock me because that was the sentiment and views of people. They saw Black Africa as being wild, tameless, untamed. And I pulled up the books. What's his name? His name is George Hegel. Look into that. He's actually one of the modern founders of Western philosophy, and that's crazy, because some of his philosophical points are on point and used today, but that the other stuff, it's been refuted. People argue even now in philosophy classes. But we got a brother Sarimotep on some see his take. I know he probably didn't hear anything that I was saying earlier. But yeah, Chief X did a whole 2.5 hour video refuting your video.
Of course, which was predicted in the chat.
Right. I mentioned that.
So and
We're all prophets.
exactly. He has very serious comprehension issues. So even going back and forth with him at this point is asinine and mute. Because if from what I heard y'all say, that he doesn't even recognize them as a rematch, then there's just really no point, because obviously he doesn't know anything about Egypt, and he just listens to people who are in opposition of the conclusions in which persons like myself and others have come to regarding ancient Egyptian history, culture, language, etc. What I presented, you're not going to get around. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't even put in just for the sake of time into the
Right.
presentation. Because there's other, like when we go to the biblical text, they tell you where they come from. See, everybody will admit, like even with that one mummy study that did all the DNA from like the upper middle Egypt
Yeah.
up to the delta,
Mm-hmm.
they admit in the text that if we would have went south, that we would expect to see, more quote unquote sub-Saharan, African influence or whatnot in the DNA data.
Yeah.
And so they understand, which is why they stick to the Delta region when looking for artifacts, when looking for anything to try to, create this narrative of this Middle Eastern, Egypt. But what they gloss over is all of the people who are around them who uh who give testimony about the Egyptians. And what's interesting about, for example, the Greek testimony is that in the Greek testimony, think about how late the Greeks are in Egyptian history. That even at that time, they knew who the Egyptians were, who the Remetch were, and then who was everybody else. Because when they described the Egyptians, they described them as black. And this is, they're not going to get around this. This is one of the reasons why I had, the Dr. Rebecca, what's her name? Just left me that fast. She's a classicist, and who admits to this, like, yeah, it's a known fact in the Greek testimony, they always describe the Egyptians, the Remetch, as black. And they use all the words in their language that mean black, which some people try to use. They try to say swarthy. But what's
Yeah.
interesting is that, and even Garfield has brought this up before, there's even colors that in terms of the Hebrews or whatnot, or the Israelites, someone that I think the Greeks described them, and they use a color like yellowish white or something like that, which is interesting because people like to make it seem as if the Egyptians and the people in Palestine and these areas are the same, or there's close, continuity in terms of phenotype, including skin color in that area. But when they describe them, they use a totally different word other than, melas
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature. And it would coincide with when the biblical text, you have them describing where the Egyptians' origins being in the south, which is actually the beginning, the rest, the head,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right.
And so it's like there's just no way around it. And the only people who would deny something like this It's just people who just don't comprehend history, and just has a short attention span, don't read. We come across these kind of folks all the time, and they'll do these long about diatribes about nothing, and then it'll still be Google scholar, be all in Google images, talking about this is this refutes your, like, dude, this is why I have the starting the series how to critique the critique,
Right.
because people think that's because something's written in a book that that's the end of the conversation. And it's like, no, scholarship is ongoing. And people just debate until they get tired of debating, until a new generation of folks come and look at all the arguments and say one side is full of shit.
Right.
and
Right.
and that's what the younger generations is doing with the older generations. You just have people trying to hold on and stick to this old narrative of this Hamatic hypothesis, of these Eurasians, these intelligent Eurasians who come from, you know, in between Mesopotamia, the Caucasus Mountains, and of course now Palestine, and who came and civilized and brought civilization to Egypt. But for some reason, they couldn't even they didn't even have the name in their language for which the Egyptians called themselves.
Yeah, that's like I did an after party after your show, and I just highlighted some things that stood out to me with what you presented, and that was one of the things that I one of the first ones that I pointed out, that people cannot get around, and they don't understand the importance of identity. And so if the ancient Egyptians came from some Semitic stock of people, then we should find the name that they named themselves among the Semitic speakers somewhere. And you don't. Remich is not there. But where we do find cognates and things to Remich, and I pointed out that it's a pattern through Africa, the pattern and stuff like that. That's right there is a clear indication. Nobody's going to come from, because it's not like us here, African Americans. We were kidnapped and stripped of our identity, our name, and everything. So we took on this thing. But the ancient Egyptians, calling themselves the Remesh, they weren't kidnapped and then dropped off at the Nile Valley, kicked out the car and whatnot, and or off a boat, and then they had to re-identify themselves. No, so it should be some kind of continuity, even with naming, for them to name themselves in such a way. And so I pointed that out, that people don't get around that. So and in Chief X's video that he did today, he skipped over that. He that's like over the head. He skipped over that because you can't get around it. He focused on the wigs and the hair argument and stuff like that. But I addressed his very, very first point that he was wrong on, just on citizenship.
Like, dude, like, matter of fact, I don't know if you are familiar with this author here. Oops, sorry. Dr.
Uros.
Arash Matic.
Oh no, not
And,
really.
and he has a text called Ethnic Identities in the Land of the Pharaohs. Besides my ongoing linguistic work, which I'm preparing a journal article for, the question of ethnicity is something that is a key factor. And one of the things that this author recognizes is that because of the and I have to find the exact, so I don't know if I highlighted it in the beginning or if I highlighted it at the end. Okay, yeah, so it's in the beginning. So page 6. So he talks about, because of the many different influences in Egypt and migrations and things. He says, therefore, when talking about ancient Egypt and ancient Egyptians, we have to bear in mind that these terms do not refer to a static society, resistant to demographic, social, and cultural change. Strictly speaking, there is no such thing as ancient Egypt and ancient Egyptians. The land we refer to as ancient Egypt, although having its core in the Nile Valley from the Delta to the First Cataract, either expanded or lost parts of its territories only to regain control of them again. The people we refer to with the term Egyptians were men, women, and children of different class backgrounds living in different towns and regions of the land. Some of them had foreign origins, others were married to foreigners or to the people of foreign origin. Some never left their villages, towns, or regions. Others traveled far away and frequently. Some spoke only Egyptian language, others spoke other languages too. A small percentage of the population was fully literate, a large percentage was of limited literacy or no literacy at all. Some of them lived in the land ruled by a ruler of local origin, and some in a land ruled by a ruler of foreign origin. This diversity is important to stress from the very beginning, and it will be extensively discussed throughout the element. And the element is just a word that he uses for what we would say the text, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's acknowledging this. As a matter of fact, Dr. Anselin or Alon Anselin in his article talking about the multiple kind of origins of Egypt, and it's these facts of history which I mentioned at the beginning of our discussion, talking about anyone can be a citizen, anybody can be an Egyptian, but have a different ethnic origin. What I want to know is who were the Remetch? Who were the first people the people who said that, this is going to be this is our name, so to speak, right? And then everybody else, followed suit in terms of which later on, but that Remetch was an ethnic identity of the group of the people who came in or who originated in this area and ruled. And so the next question is, well, where can I find the word Remetch in the languages, in terms of cognates in the languages around that area? So of course, let's first look in the Berber. No, none in the Berber languages. Look through many texts. Okay, let's go into the Semitic languages. What's going on here in Semitic? Nothing in Semitic. But of course, when we get into these quote unquote sub-Saharan African languages, that's where you find this term in abundance. Even to the point where one of the groups, they are still called the Remetch to this day. We call them the Oromo.
Right. Oromo.
And that word Oromo is cognate with Remetch. And the fact, like, this is very important. And I've heard some and I've seen some. I didn't like the full scope of the argumentation of this person's article, because some Africans just have, sometimes their work isn't really systematic, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And that's what I like. I like to look at stuff, even if it's not 100%, good and accurate. If there's enough there that warrants a revision, I'll go ahead and do the revision. And that's what I've done with Chiluba, language. That's what I've done with, an analysis of the collagen, Egyptian origin hypothesis, as well as, analyzing the Yoruba and their various things. And so, spending years doing that work has allowed me to not only ask, certain critical questions, but to reassess certain arguments. And this is, partly part of the inspiration for the how to critique the critiques. And one of my essential premises is that you have to be competent in the field for which you are accepting someone's analysis and or critique of somebody else's work. Because in that process, for you to make the argument that so and so is right and so is wrong, you have to be competent in the information and the history and things. And if possible, given the nature of study, you would have to be able to repeat and do your own confirmation and come to the conclusion that you come to in terms of who's right, who's closer to the truth, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exactly what I've done. And so yeah, I don't know where I was going, but I was just
No, let me just say something. That's important. What you just said is really important, and we don't see any of it in these YouTube streets really, or the conscious community. Is that when you're faced, like, if you're not, and this is what I said earlier before you probably tuned in and stuff. I was saying that a lot of this is a consequence. A lot of what we see is a consequence of people who are trying to talk about things that is not their area of focus. And I was saying, I personally don't have a problem with that in and of itself, because a lot of us, if something piques our interest, we'll look into it on a surface level and everything like that. But the problem comes in is when people go beyond that and try to argue, fuss and fight, debate, create videos and quarrel about these things that's beyond the scope of their area of focus. They don't put no rigor, no nothing into nothing. And so that's what's going on. So if somebody's researching something, obviously you got to defer to the authority of the subject, the experts and specialists. So you got to defer. Like, you don't want to commit the logical fallacy of appealing to authority, but we defer to them, right? So we get one author, an expert, he says A equals B. We get another author on the same subject, he says nope, A equals Y. We're forced to be in a position of like, wait a minute, I don't know who's right, but these are experts, so obviously they got some debating among themselves. The only way we can discern that is if we take up the task. We have to learn the methods, and that's what you said that you have done and stuff. And this is something that we have to advocate and push other people to do, because that's the only thing we could do. Because otherwise, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna pick this author because I like them. He's black,
that's
so
all what it boils down
if it's
to.
a black,
It becomes a popularity contest.
yeah. Don't let it be a black. Don't let it be a black one versus a white one.
Towards that than the other one.
That's it. I said don't.
It's just crazy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said don't let it be a black author versus a white author. Then the choice is easy.
Look, you already know. Like this is exactly what happened with the Kemet debate. So I'm throughout these years, I'm just listening to scholars, all of them degreed, all of them experts in this, and it just at some point it's just like, well, who's going to do the serious analysis and check everybody's arguments? Unbiasedly, just is able to confirm or deny certain arguments, and it just gets frustrating after a while. And so, of course, when people who don't do scholarship on any level, all they can do is appeal to authority. Well, so-and-so said.
Yep.
Who cares?
And he must be right.
Exactly. Demonstration beats conversation. They give a rat's ass what he said and who said it. Is what's the supporting evidence? What's the logic of the argument?
Yep.
That's what you judge.
Well, I just addressed the one thing that Chief X said. I just used it as a teaching moment, which he was wrong about citizenship and the Nubians there in Aswan and stuff like that. It's clear because there's a lot of work done on the what do you call it, activism of many of those Nubians that are trying to seek out rights and better protections and concessions from the Egyptian government, because they're being stepped on and marginalized and so on and so forth over there.
Yeah, I got video.
Yeah.
Maybe have time to come on the show. I'll share. I'll share my screen once I find it. I have several clips in Aswan, and we're talking to the Nubian people. And this is exactly what they're talking about. Like
Yep.
these folks, these are the Egyptians. Like when you go into Nubia, you'll see the goddamn walls come to life. It's
But
like it's like they just snatch. Uh, the video that comes to mind. I'm a hip hop head, so there's a old Naughty by Nature video called "It's On," right? And at the beginning of the video, it's a young boy that is, watching and listening to this elder play a saxophone, right? I think it's a saxophone. And, he put some money into, I guess the case or whatnot, when they, kind of play for support out in the streets. He says, make a wish, any wish. And the little boy says, I wish Naughty by Nature was here. And then it goes, boop, 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 boop. The music starts coming in.
Yeah.
But on the wall is a painting, a mural of Naughty by Nature. But you see the effects of Naughty by Nature come out the wall, and then they get into their pose, and then they get ready to start rapping. But that's exactly what happens when you go into Nubia. Them Negroes came out of the walls and then went and settled over there in the what's the name. That's what it looks like.
They stepped out of Hatshepsut's temple and everything. Just like, yo, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that picture you showed yesterday too.
What'd you say?
The picture you showed yesterday in your presentation.
Well, I mean,
like
I showed
a split image.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the different hairstyle. Yeah, it's something that he brought up. I didn't touch on that because it's kind of, we dealt with that so many times. I just want to straighten out the citizenship thing, and then the administrative, the state forming aspect of Egypt clearly comes from the south in an upward movement. I mean, the material culture, the archaeology supports it and everything. So I covered that. I showed some text and things. Crystal Ciali, seal cylinders and seals. And Crystal and stuff, Cemetery L, from Crystal all the way up to Nakata, which is now Komombo area. That whole area was like the brewing spot for what we know as dynastic Egypt. So in its political aspect. So yeah, man.
But even on top of that, this is why the work that I do is so important. Because I'm showing all of those characteristics in terms of administration, in terms of religion, in terms of logic, all of that existing still in Central and West Africa. And so if you go by the principle of most diversity and least moves, all this stuff drops off when you start getting into the Middle East and North Africa. Why is that? With the exception of when the Egyptians and I would say other quote unquote Negro Egyptian speakers went into the Levant itself. And like what people keep forgetting, like everybody wants to talk about how the people in the Levant came and settled into the Delta, but they never talk about how the Egyptians went and made colonies in the Levant since the beginning before Pharaonic times. So if you're seeing commonalities, if you see the influence in terms of the prestige has always been with the Egyptians, and you're finding commonalities between the Egyptians and the Palestinians and stuff like this, who do you think is, or what do you think the reason or the top reason that would be the case? Even in Pharaonic times, you start to see money with scarabs and wing keperas on it. all of them got Egyptian names in terms of West Semitic, because the influence was always on the African side. And not until the Arabs came with Islam did that reverse. In the AD period. Even among the Greeks, the influence was still dominant on the Egyptian side. And they conquered.
Right. That's a critical point to make. I mean, man, I don't get it. You know, I just look at it as I actually just look at to see what people are paying attention to, like in the chat. So like in Chief X video, I didn't catch it live, so I just started playing it because I actually looked for a video that he made because we predicted it, right? So I said, let me see if Chief X fulfilled the prophecy, and sure enough, he did a video.
Any video that I do is 3 people who I know, actually kind of 4 or 5 maybe, but 3 that I know is gonna make a video. It's gonna be Chief X, it's gonna be Netter Neb, and Zion Lex.
Right.
And then after them is either going to be pseudo killers and or Team Osiris.
Right.
He gets stalked.
I know.
like I did the Hebrew Yahweh already, Zion Lex and Netter Neb. So matter of fact, I'm doing a video on Sunday addressing Zion Lex, and it's going to be why it is not intelligent to argue with Hebrews or people like Netter Neb. I'm gonna put Netter Neb in there too. He's gonna get his 15 minutes of fame.
Well,
because it's you're going to lose brain cells, because the number one issue that I have with all these arguments that we're having is that they just don't comprehend the argument, and they can't analyze the evidence. Even how long was that one show we had on the Big Bang?
Oh man,
Just can't get right.
that was
Like,
long. I had
long
one
'cause
marathon.
You're going over and over the same things, and it's very basic and easy to understand what exactly is going on here. But because of people's pride, their pride will not allow them to just say, you know what, I don't know. or which takes, more courage, is to say that I was wrong.
Yeah.
It won't let them do that. So they'll continue to just make up arguments that no one is even arguing, and then argue against it.
Well, the latest thing is that Credo Mutua, anybody that use Credo Mutua is pseudos all outdoors, because Credo Mutua be pushing that alien agenda with David Icke and this and that.
I saw that, and I was like, man, see, this is another thing. It's like, just, you don't read his stuff, and then you try to pair him like, dude, the stuff that Credo Mutua was talking about from the early 50s and 60s. There's no David Icke in the 50s and 60s. He may have been born. I don't know how old he was or is. But he wasn't right. There was no one knew of him until in recent times. And so it is not new age stuff. Now, if he, kind of finds some correspondence with aliens and all that, so be it. It's I don't see what the problem is. Like, all African traditions talk about some damn alien. If you talk about an ancestor, that's an alien.
Yeah. Well,
they're not earthly. They don't live here. They come from somewhere else.
What it is to me is an excuse to wave off and be lazy and not do the work. It's like you find something wrong with something just to dismiss it and not put in work to actually analyze something. So it's
Exactly.
like, well, you know how we do it with people. We'll try to find something that we don't like in a person, just so you don't have to deal with the person, or whatever the case is. And that's what happens with information and stuff like that. People do that, and they don't take time to understand. So now they're equating that with all initiatory systems. You know, like that has no merit anymore now, because Credo Mutua talks about aliens and he was initiated. Therefore, all initiates are spooky and without merit in arguments and blah blah blah. So that's gonna be the new thing. It's gonna probably last for about a month, and then it's gonna be something else after that, and so on and so on.
And
But
this is
what I
one of
was
the
saying,
points.
oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say. So I was just saying, when I was looking at Chief X video, um, when I see a video like that, I pay attention to the chat, and I try to see
Uh-huh.
who is asking the right questions, who is buying into what's being said, and so on and so forth. And I start taking note of names, and everything. And then if there's a good number of people that are falling for it or whatever, that's when I'll pull something out and make a teaching moment. So, other than that, I don't really
Hmm.
have the time to keep going over and over this stuff all again.
Yeah, it reminds me of. Hopefully, I can find it relatively quickly. This is from Dr. Modupe Oduyoye's text, "Words and Meaning of Yoruba Religion," and because I think it's on the chapter of um, on popular etymology, right? The very first chapter. Let me see. And my book is so old and beat up, like literally all the pages are falling out. Uh, Dang it, man. I'm gonna have to find it, but it speaks perfectly to the issue that we're having here in terms of a skeptic, and you know how to leave escape. It may not be this one. No, comparative philology and statement. Let me see.
Let me just speak to the chat for a second.
No, no.
So again, I appreciate everybody tuned in, still hanging. We at 2:43 in the morning on a Friday, and we just popped up out of nowhere, out the deepest abyss of noon. We part of that Big Bang initial expansion. We just popped up on you, manifested, and went live. So appreciate everybody tuned in, and we're not gonna be
Yeah,
too
let
long.
me
We
try to
got like
find it.
3 minutes left, really, because I'm definitely end this off. But I had
But
to, I had
I
the
do
link in
want to
there.
say this though,
Yeah. Okay.
that we before you go, is that the the primary issue, and I'm gonna speak on this on Sunday when it comes to Zion Lex and why their arguments always fail, is because, and of course they're always waiting on me to do a program in order to respond to it, which means that they're not doing any of their own original research. Anything that I discuss on my program is because it has been some research that I've done because I'm interested in the subject. And I've been researching it for a while, and I'm deciding to share with the public. Some of the stuff is written in text, others still remain in notes, but I'm sharing it with the public because I have a genuine interest in the subject matter. So I take my time, I purchase expensive books, I spend time in the libraries, I do all this work and then I analyze, I ask critical questions, I synthesize data, and whatever little bit I can share, I share with the public. But when it comes to these folks who we mentioned earlier, they don't do any original research. They have no deep passion for the subject. And so all they do is sit back and wait for persons like myself or you to present original research, and then they hop on a live 2 hours later with a rebuttal. And you don't do that. Because when you do that, that means all you're doing is Google shipping to find information to try to rebut an argument. You're only searching for the information to try to debate someone. And when you do that, I like to say that the ancestors and the spirits won't provide you with the information that you seek. Because you're in a rush. You're trying to microwave some stuff. This isn't your calling. And because this isn't your calling, you don't have the requisite, you won't take the time to develop the requisite skills and to learn how to do scholarship. And you just come online rebutting with anything.
Yeah.
And that's a sad state of affairs. When you're only like, people only know of you because of other people. You can't stand on your own when it comes to certain information. Even with Netcher Neb, like when you read all his posts, it's me and Dr. Sati, me and da 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 da. But he can't do anything on his own. Chief X has response videos to everyone. No original deep scholarship. He doesn't write. He doesn't attend conferences.
Well, that's also
he doesn't
a new thing
put
too.
any scholarship in the hat. I'm sorry?
That's also, I said that's also the new thing too. Now, see, they're trying to diminish initiation, and I say they, I'm talking about, kind of across the board. They're trying to diminish initiation. Now they're trying to diminish the book writing, writing books and things. So they can't. It's almost like they're trying to take away what's necessary to do this work. They're trying to chip away at those elements that build up work. Like so now you can't, because remember they people started with Mboli. They started they go to Diop and everything. So it's like, nah, now when we reveal that, okay, there's a study methodology, a research method under the umbrella of Afrocentric research methodology and things, Afrocentrism, as espoused by Asante and the whole nine. Then they attack that. So anything that is used as a requirement to do this kind of work, that's what they try to chip away at in a very poor way at that. But they summarily try to dismiss, without even reading the book. People dismissed Mboli's book. I remember what's his name, Ngozi did that. Dismissed, didn't even read it. People don't even read Egyptian text. Now it's like, how can they understand the Big Bang? Don't understand the cosmology. Don't even understand modern cosmology. I asked a simple question about things, and people front like they know even the modern understanding of the origin of the universe.
And they have agreement with y'all.
Yeah, then they got so much. People got so much to say. So it's sad. You said sad state of affairs, and I agree with that. It's the norm now, though, and I blame the platforms though, because it's it's kind of structured to where one feeds the other. You know, that's being encouraged. It's being championed. It's being glorified, and now it's being financed. So it's rough.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
people don't
I want
understand.
like
Like,
before.
what's the phrase? It took me 20 years to be an overnight success.
Right.
You know, like it takes time to get here, and they just don't want to. They don't want to go through them steps. They just want to Google. Don't even understand why even Googling is an instrument for biased results,
Yep.
and why when you're doing real scholarship, that generally isn't accepted because algorithms cut out certain things depending
Yeah,
upon you know, if you have access to a paid, you know, service or not, or certain things. That's why you gotta spend time in libraries. You go to the library, like when I go to UPenn library, I'd be seeing stuff I ain't never heard of and read. Sometimes I'll just go and just randomly take books off and then just read and see what I discover. I let the ancestors decide, you know, because I'm telling you, there's been times where I just open the book. They're like, pick up this book, and then you know, turn here, and then sure enough, I'll read something. I'll be like, I've been looking for this,
I got you
but
covered.
that's what happens when you know, when you're researching with good intent because you're interested. You know, the work
Yeah.
will lead you to other work, which will lead you to other work, which will lead you to other work, and it just becomes an ongoing thing. I'm sorry, it sounded like I was interrupting someone.
Zane, what you
no.
were saying something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask aside before the show's over. Is that I don't know if you probably just explained this, but I wanted you like to reiterate, like with all those people that you named that would like generate, like usually they'll disagree with you. It's like
Uh-huh.
I kind of wonder why they disagree with you so much. Is it because
Because I done
don't
beat their ass before.
they don't see your research as valid enough, or is it that
Because
I don't
listen,
know? It's
because I
like,
done beat
do
their
they
ass
look at
before.
other people?
It's personal. Because I didn't
Yeah,
listen, and I'm dead serious. Because and I'm not talking about in a physical fight. I'm
right.
talking about
I
because,
know,
for
like
example, take
intellectually, yeah,
Netter Neb. Netter Neb used to, you know, be more uh, open to information in things, and would you would see he would be in agreement. But there was a time on Facebook where he was, you know, being very disrespectful to people, and he kept coming to conclusions that were just wrong on all accounts. And when we tried to correct him, he you know, takes it personally. And notice this as well, that you know, and I don't know how to say this without it being taken in the wrong way, but or offense. But one thing I always notice is that when a lot of the times when we have disagreements and these passionate heart, all of them used to be so-called thugs back in the day. Every last one of them, right? Um, they're very
hmm
emotional, can't control their emotions, always outburst and stuff to this nature. And so for someone like Ned or Neb, he can't take rejection. He can't take disagreement. So every single person that disagrees with him, he lashes out at them. And so now you become his enemy. So if you disagree with me, you're now my enemy. And you can even go on his page. We got conversations saved from back in the day, you know, on this, and this is the situation. Same thing with Chief X, same thing with Team Osiris, you know, because it all started with the whole Afro-Asiatic thing. And because Afroasiatic is not their subject, and Ngozi likes to do DNA studies, and then he's misrepresenting the DNA studies and then trying to link it with languages, and you can't link DNA with languages because no DNA will tell you what language of people spoke. But he's always trying to combine this information.
Right.
Then on top of that, Afroasiatic is not a valid construct in terms of a language, which is admitted by a number of linguists. But because he had already taken that position to heart and been pushing this in the public, then you have someone like myself for saying no, that is wrong. Again, certain people can't take rejection, they can't take criticism, and so they take it personally, and then it becomes more than just the critique on the information. They start trying to attack you personally, and call you all kinds of things out of your name and stuff like this. This happens with every and this is what made me kind of look back and reflect in terms of the community at large. Like there's a lot of people who are in our community, in the quote unquote conscious community, that have undiagnosed mental health issues, and they try to enter into this space not well, because when you're doing scholarship, first and foremost, you have to have integrity. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be able to say, you know what, I'm wrong on this, and be willing to change your positions when the evidence is overwhelming. That's the first thing. And then you have to be able to take criticism without taking it personally. So you can tell the people who weren't in classes and had to write essays and get all kinds of red marks on their papers because of how they try to articulate an argument. That's stuff I've been doing for years. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying you got to use that criticism. You got to use that criticism and revise your own work with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's how you grow. That's how. See, it's a maturation process. Real scholars, real scientists, and anybody that's passionate about this, you can see the layers of growth on them. That's the outward expression of the realness of these things. Everything else is superficial. People can claim to be something, but if you can't see it manifest in their character and in their behavior, then it's not what it is. And so, real students and stuff like that, they're able to grow because, that's one thing you learn early on. You cannot, and that's the problem with identity. If you don't have an identity already, then you will mess around and not even know it, but you'll identify with other things. And then when those things gets knocked down or critiqued, you take it personal because you have identified with it. And real scientists know never to identify with information. Shoot, because that's the name of the game. Is you analyze, you come to your thoughts, you share your thoughts, and then you put it out there for the wolves. Like you put it out there for the wolves. You're like, hey, have at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's why I think Asam made a great point, and which most people haven't noticed, is that these people do not have any original work, so they really haven't had that chance to actually put in work, research something and then put it out there to be critiqued. And obviously one of the things, it doesn't matter, it's not even just as a scholar, but in any industry, you could be an artist, you're going to be criticized by people. It could be a record record company, it could be your audience, it could be but people have to understand that when you get a critique, it's not you that people are critiquing, but it's your work that is being critiqued. And then that gives, like Zen said, that gives you room to improve. But these people, obviously, they haven't had that chance to actually have anything to offer, any original work. So even when their shoddy rebuttals are being critiqued, they still take that personal. And that's even not a work that, that, and they call it their work, that rebuttal, but that's actually just piggybacking on somebody else's work in that sense. And that actually, the names that you listed, we don't have any. If you look at all those names, there's no original work. If you find any minimal thing that you might call original work, is just actually just collaborating with somebody else and then putting your name on the side, so and so plus me.
Hey, let me say this. I want to say this about that. I used to say this a lot when I recognize it, and I have this thing where I call somebody a Paulite, right? From the biblical character Paul, Saul, who changed his name to Paul. Jesus' enemy who turned his advocate. If anybody's familiar with the biblical story of Paul, they'll know that Paul, obviously he was an enemy of Jesus, but then he had this overnight vision and he got converted on the road to Damascus or whatever the case is. Then he became Jesus's best advocate, right? He outshined the disciples. But in that story, Paul never goes around the disciples and chimes in with the disciples around. So the disciples lived and breathed and ate and learned directly from Jesus, but Paul, he was persecuting, and then he just had this vision. Now all of a sudden he's on the level of the disciples. So what Paul does, he doesn't go into Judah or Jerusalem or whatever case. He goes to the Gentiles to teach, because the Gentiles don't know nothing from nothing, and they can't fact check Paul. So Paul can make up anything he wants and whatnot, and he doesn't do that around the disciples, because the disciples be like, nah, you BSing. So I say that to say, we have modern day Paulites where people will cling on to some people or persons that are not within the circle or the realm of where the arguments and the real action are taking place. They go elsewhere, like a BB Toomey website, like teaming up with people outside the community, like the person you mentioned, Sati, or whatever the case is. They will go out there and try to make a name for themselves because that audience don't know better. And so I noticed that, and that's what people tend to do. They tend to branch away and try to create an audience that's not privy to the original arguments. And so that's why I learned a long time ago, I save conversations. And so, cause to create this pattern, and so people could see it if it never ever needs to be brought forth. So I just found that interesting that all these people are not all, but some people are Paulites to me. They do the exact same thing, and what you described is definitely Paulism. What you just now described, the whole thing, going away, going out and switching platforms only to come back to the platform to monitor and then create other videos.
Exactly. Remixing Asar's work, basically.
Man, whole groups
being a SAR student, for real.
Like the whole, in essence, whole communities have been created just to be anti Asar Hotep in anyone I'm associated with.
Yeah, exactly.
When you think about it, they got, because I dismantle arguments, and I'm not saying that no one has probably dismantled an argument of mine, but it's rare, only because I learned to not argue stuff that I know little to nothing about. If you don't argue stuff you know little to nothing about, there's you reduce the frequency or the probability that someone's going to dismantle your argument.
Man, we learned that in Debate 101. Don't argue an argument or make a claim that you cannot back up or know little to nothing about. It's the same as in sports.
Found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
With the libel suit, just made up stuff. It's like, and now you got to prove it in court. I made it up. $4 million.
Yeah, Tasha K right there.
$4 million. Like,
Oh,
no,
Yep.
like,
I'm behind on that. I'm not familiar with that.
well,
I
it's
saw
a,
her
it's
name. I saw
a,
her name pop up. I guess that's what it's about. I didn't. I don't know nothing from nothing. But I saw her name pop. I'm like, why is she popping up?
yeah, because she, a video blogger who, it's a gossip. It's just, just good old fashioned beauty shop barber. I mean, like beauty shop gossip, tabloid gossip. And so she allegedly had some information about Cardi B and, said that she was a prostitute and that, she used to do these heavy drugs. Said the same thing about Sonetta too. Not the prostitute part, but um and that she had herpes. And once she did the we had herpes or that she had herpes, uh that's when she was like, you know what, a lesson has to be learned here. So we're going to go to court of this because once you put a rumor out that someone has herpes, especially for someone in the entertainment realm and then trying to do acting and all this other kind of stuff, that s with your money.
Yeah.
And when she did that, it's been 3 years. They've been going back and forth, and they finally, came. Tasha K is guilty. I'm seeing different numbers, but it's in between, 1.5 and $4 million.
Oh, so so
Uh,
it's so 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 it's been adjudicated. So it's been
yeah, yeah, it's
okay.
already
Oh
been.
yeah,
Yeah, the trial happened.
yeah, $3.8 million from what I read, and she has to pay that. But the funny thing is that Cardi B and her team did ask her politely through the years to take those videos down, but some people got to learn the hard way.
Yeah, but that's just the point. It's when you just don't go making up stuff like like how I'm gonna deal with oh gosh, it's just pathetic with Zion Lex, um Lion Zion Lex. But I'm only doing this as a lesson for others and why you got to pick and choose your battles because you got to see who is worthy or not. It's just like with the other dude from Team Osiris. Had all these videos, but then when I sat him down one on one and just played the video and then went back and then showed him, where this was found in the text and all this other kind of stuff, you see that, you know, he was getting in his feelings. So like if he hates me, that'll be another because, for someone who asked that question before, this is what happens when dismantling arguments. They take it personally, and then I'm all kinds of B's and H's and all this other kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I did find that quote that I was talking about. It's still Mudupe Odeyoye, but it was in a different text on the uh, Africa's contribution to world religions or something like that. And he states on page 59 of the text, he says, "It is possible for me to approach the enterprise of proving that the religion of the Jews has its origin in the religious tradition of Africa by concentrating on that task alone, the task of proof. But proving this point is not the end of the project. And proving a point depends on who is assessing the evidence. You can never prove any point to the satisfaction of a skeptic. Once, therefore, one is satisfied that one has carried one's investigation to the point of satisfying oneself of the adequacy of the evidence, one must leave skeptics at the point beyond which they are unable to go and proceed with one's larger enterprise."
Yep.
And
That's
and
what they
if
do.
we understood that, this is I'm gonna lead off kind of with that on Sunday and why I don't respond to all these damn videos because you'll be wasting your time if you're wasting your time, especially on people who don't know how to assess evidence. You're talking to a brick wall. It's like talking to your dog about quantum mechanics and
Well,
expecting the dog to respond adequately to your questions.
I wish I could find this
That's
video, man.
why.
It's a. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead,
I was
Zay.
just gonna say that. That's why I really like when you started this, how to critique the critique, because I feel like it goes way beyond charnetical fallacies. Like it directly goes into how to research for yourself or to look at other people's research.
Exactly.
That's how I feel.
Well,
we.
oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
done.
just trying to
sorry,
close. It's we had 3
Yeah.
hours. I was hoping we ended. I just want to end with
man,
this
it got
though.
a 6-7 hour show, and you falling off.
Yeah, not tonight. What was I gonna say? I'll end it with this. There's a video on YouTube. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. There's a video on YouTube where it's this guy. It's a short video, and I forgot the title of it, but it's something along the lines of why I don't debate certain people, whatever the case is. And it's a guy walking on the corner, and these two, I think, Mormons pull up on him on bikes or whatever, and they trying to, convert him to Jesus or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Mormon guys, or Jehovah's Witness or somebody, he says Jesus is the Savior, or something. He says something matter of factly about Jesus, and the black guy's like, really? I said, are you? He said, are you sure of that? And the guy was like, yes, oh, absolutely. And then he said,
I seen that.
okay.
Yeah.
He said, okay, well, thanks, I'm done. We're done. And so and I'm probably butchering it up, but the whole point is,
he said something. He asked a question, is something along the lines is it possible for you to be wrong on this subject? And when it was something along those lines, and when he said no, then it was like,
we're done.
Well, then we're done. That was it.
And so that goes back to what we are taught in argumentation and argument theory, whatever, is that you never ever debate or argue with somebody whose mind is already made up. It's like there's no sense in doing that. If somebody's mind is already made up, you are wasting your time. And so that video is exactly that. So the guy just walked away. He's like, all right, we're done then. Thank you. We're done. And that's it. That's a wrap. And that's what you just read reminds me of that. It's like you got to leave a skeptic. You got to leave him where you found him, because to go any further. And matter of fact, I wish Dr. Odara is on here, because in the Maximum Ptah Hotep, there's a similar statement there. If somebody's heated or whatever, bend your hands, put your hands, bend your, bow your back or whatever, bend your back and everything, and just let them be. So anyway, but listen, it's 3 a.m. and we've been on for 3 hours because we started almost at 12 midnight, and I don't know where everybody else is, but it's late. I know it's Friday, but I really appreciate everybody tune in, because we definitely came out of the deep abyss of noon on this one. I just saw Chief X video, and I looked for it this time. This is probably one of the rare times I actually look for somebody to do a video, because I said, I know he did it. I said, something's telling me he did video, and I was expecting like 10, but it was 1. And so anyway, I just wanted to address that first thing he was saying. As a teaching moment, I may pick something else out of his video to speak on if I feel it's a teaching moment as well. But otherwise, it's whatever. So anyway, but MBK, anybody else got some last closing words?
I think it's just good to summarize the points of this video, because we were, just for anybody that came in late or might forget, is that yes, those people that we refer to as the Nubians in Egypt, they are Egyptian citizens. So whatever Chief F was saying, that is not the case, and he actually said categorically that that's the fact, and that it is by law they're not Egyptian citizens. We did show the Egyptian law that says that they are citizens. You can actually be a citizen by right of being born on that soil, and at least having one parent, and other also variables that make you an Egyptian citizen. So what he was saying was incorrect. The Nubians are Egyptian citizens. We do have those other people that we refer to as Nubians on the northern part of Sudan, because that is imaginary border that separates those two that region, and those other people on the other side, those are Sudanese. They are Sudanese Nubians, so they are Sudanese by citizen. They are Nubians by ethnic, and we do not want to blur the lines between identifications of ethnicity and nationality, and we see that all over the continent. We have people who might be Yoruba by ethnicity, but they might be of different nationalities. They might be Nigerian, they might be from Benin, or they might be from Togo, and all that. We see that all over Africa. I give example of my people, the Luo people, the people around that Lake Victoria region. We say we're Luo, but we could be of different nationalities depending on the demarcation of the border. It could be Kenya, it could be Uganda, it could be Tanzania. So we do have to understand what ethnicity is, what nationality is.
Quick question. I know this is all, and I know y'all trying to go. But if I know Dolu, the Do in Doluo has to deal with the tongue or the speech. But I hear, like, I remember reading sometime, because I was trying to look for the etymology of the word Luo. And do you have any idea of possibly what that word, because if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the sources I read was talking about a word for land or something like that.
Yes, that is actually debated among Luo people. So some people go with the word, like you said, land, which will be Lo. Some people actually are trying to figure out if it's the word follow, as in Luo, which is to follow, and talking about it in regards to following the leader from Sudan and going down to Uganda and then coming to Kenya. So that's debatable, and I'm not sure, because there's not a lot of linguistic work that has been done on that to figure out. But there's two groups debating on what it could be.
Because I wonder, I doubt it, because I looked into the word for. I know I have some dictionaries, but it's possible. No, it's not possible. I have a question in terms of, even if that is possibly a variation of the word remech itself, and where the M becomes intervocally, it turns into a W. It weakens and becomes a W. And usually what happens once it does that, it becomes U. And then the first vowel is absorbed or lost. And it's just kind of like a lost name to nobody, because nobody seems to know what the word means.
Correct.
And I'm knowing that they're coming out of the Sudan as well. Anyway, I was just asking.
I notice a lot of times when the etymology of something is lost and it gets kind of diluted into the memory, is that then people turn to the folk
etymology,
folk etymology, or the lore, or like the stories about the origin or the migrations and stuff like that, and then it kind of gets a little hazy. But you may find some clues in that, because I know the Luo people weren't really originally located in the places that they are. So following somebody, then the tribal differences and the breakaway between brothers, and how tribes will start with one family, and then one son will just kind of stretch out on his own, and then over time it become another tribe, but then they came from an ancestral parent tribe that was really once family. Anyway, things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting work, and hopefully, I'm actually really hoping once we get to the linguistics and things like that, then though that could be definitely my main focus in trying to figure out, because there's a lot of things that are interesting that is obviously there's not a lot of linguistic work done on Doluo and things like that, and because it's there's the migration and the split and the different clans, and then all that kind of stuff, it makes it a little complex, and not a lot of people doing that, but that's something that I would definitely that's my intent with what I'm doing, that I get to that point where I can be able to do that.
Indeed. It's this book. I might share it. Well, I will share it with you on the Luo. And it was ironic because I looked. I got the book for my own just interest, but I found I was cited in the book, which is interesting, favorably, of course. But it's on Luo, and so they were making the arguments on the word Luo being connected to land. But I'll share it with you if you don't have the text.
Okay.
I gotta find it.
Definitely.
But,
Hey, when all else fails, it means black. Doluo is the land of the blacks.
Blacks, basically.
That's what default setting. We don't know what it means. I found it in some obscure crevice and cranny. It means black. Luo, Lu. Anyway.
I got everything.
All right, but listen, it's exactly. Watch, y'all gonna call me a prophet about a year from now. Somebody gonna be pushing that.
I mean, hey, we could show you pictures, and we're black.
Yep.
Indeed.
But all right. So listen, again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I didn't expect it's late. People actually tune in. I don't know if that's
the book is called Mortgaging the Ancestors.
Okay, I definitely don't have that, so I would love to have that.
Parker shipped it. Yeah. Anyway, I'll share it with you.
All right. And on that note, I don't see any too much going on in the chat. Maybe everybody fell asleep. I'm known to rock people to sleep and whatnot. So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody tuned in. Hopefully, people have a takeaway. Serving up to go boxes tonight that you could take something and look into more. MK did a good summary recap, and so I don't have to. And so that's it. I'm just going to end it now. So appreciate Asar, appreciate Zane, Jehudi, and brother Antoine came on early. He had to go. And listen, y'all, this is a safe space. When I put the link and pin it, man, use it. If you want to share your thoughts, even if you want to be in and out, that's fine. Be scared. All right, so I'm gonna say peace, and I see y'all. So yeah, I look forward to that. So Sunday, I'm gonna definitely check. What time you going live?
I want to say 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, 3 p.m. All right, yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out because I haven't even seen his argument. So, and actually, I haven't seen your original, your presentation on Yahweh.
I did
or
two. Well, here's the thing. I did 2 of them on my channel. Those are 2 hours each. But then I did kind of a summary on Netter's channel. And
which one is he?
I'm sorry.
Which one is he addressing?
He's addressing the one on Netter.
Okay.
So he didn't see the ones on my on my channel, but even still, like it appears I don't even know if he actually listened to the program at all, because it's like he just screenshotted my slides, but he didn't discuss nothing that I actually said.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna check.
And he's just misconstruing, adding arguments that I didn't even say. Like, there's even one slide where he's making the argument that that this is my words. And I clearly on the slide have the source, year, and page number that I'm quoting. And I'm just like, this is why I'm like, you know what? You just can't respond to everybody, because everybody just does not have the intellectual fortitude to handle such conversations.
Yeah, I think we need to do a series of lessons on logic. That's a must. That's a must. MCAT did a quick course on Sabre University, a free lesson on logic and reasoning. But we really need to dig into that and go back to school on that for real, because logic is everywhere. It's in everything and everywhere, you know. So I tell people, if I'll be a Vulcan, I'll be Mr. Spock as a character. I would definitely be a Vulcan. But anyway, just last thing. I see I got this quote, this comment on the screen. Black Afro Power says that one brother in the chat earlier had a point though. Y'all did him wrong. I'm just curious because I wasn't monitoring the chat, so I don't want to leave anybody hanging. What was the point and who you're talking about? So if you can quickly say what the point was and who you're talking about, because if not, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna shut it down. But I'm just curious to know on that point. So I know there's a slight delay between you hearing me and getting back, but type it in real quick if you can. Yeah,
Like
so
the Luo is the land of the blacks.
Right, he said it earlier. Y'all did him wrong. Now I'm just curious though, because I did miss a lot of comments in the chat. But sometimes the chat. See, I don't pay attention to chat while I'm trying to share something, because the chat will have a mind of its own, and it'll be distracting. And I really expect people to pay attention, because even though this is virtual, but if this was face to face, you don't have whole full conversations while somebody's presenting, because then it's like what you here for really, because how you gonna absorb what they're saying to even know if they're right or wrong or up or down. Okay, he says he was talking about Egypt earlier. Oh, he said never mind. Oh, if you're talking about the brother that was talking, oh, he's just funny. Oh, he's making a joke. I think he was talking about the brother that was talking about there is no ancient Egypt or whatever the case is. Okay, well we already kind of dealt with that. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say Shalom Hotep to everybody, and thank everybody for tuning in and everybody on the panel. Judy, you had anything? Judy probably went to sleep.
Shemem Hotel. Nah, peace.
That's it.
Thanks. Big ups to us all for coming through on the Seshew. And everybody have a good night.
All right, Zane, anything quick? Any one-liners?
Good night.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so we're gonna see Asar Sunday.
Fair to the Seshew.
All right, everybody tune in Asar Sunday 3:00. Asar Motep's YouTube channel. I'm gonna be there. Yep. I'm gonna have my popcorn and well, I don't eat popcorn. I'm gonna have my kale chips or something. I'll be in there. All right, so peace, everybody.
Peace.